program with you?
Yes, so, Ms. Morano actually was released first. Hold on, I can tell. Maybe I won't. I know it was April of 2021, but we
Okay,
need to,
so April of 2021,
yes,
and then you said, and then Lisa shortly after Ms. Morano?
yes, Ms. Dykes was released on May the 12th of 2021.
Okay, and then you said they had to have stable housing.
Yes.
Where did they go live first?
They were residing with Kyle Williams, which I believe was Miss Dyke's son.
Okay. And did they eventually get their own house or
They-
apartment?
They did.
Do you remember about how quick?
I would say a couple months.
And Ms. Dykes and Ms. Morano, were they compliant with their instructions and what they were supposed to do in terms of reporting and how they were to conduct themselves on the program?
Yes, sir, they were very compliant, they were very responsive, very cordial, respectful, yes.
How often would you interact with the two of them?
I would say at least once or twice a week, if not more sometimes, via email, phone, or in person, depending.
And they seemed to understand exactly what the rules were and how this would work and how they could move about to accomplish those necessities that we talked about.
Yes, sir.
And they followed those rules for several months, isn't that right?
Yes.
Did you ever meet with them in person?
Yes.
Okay. I guess we kind of talked about it too. In meeting with them in person, was there ever a complaint about one of the devices?
Yes.
Okay. And what was that complaint?
About November of 2021, it was Ms. Morano, she was complaining that her device was too tight on her ankle, and wished for it to be loosened up a little bit. Unfortunately, that's really not my call, that's up to the monitoring company, that's their device. I have no training in installing devices, and so that I leave that call up to the monitoring company themselves.
Did you ask someone from the monitoring company to come check out Ms. Morano's device?
I did.
And that's pretty standard for you?
Yes.
And did they check out the device?
Yes, they did.
What happened next?
They said that it was fine, meaning that they weren't going to loosen it. However, if there's a reason that maybe Ms. Morano's ankles would swell or whatnot, that for her to take pictures and to come back on Monday, because I do remember that this occurred on a Friday.
And let me ask you this, were Ms. Morano and Ms. Dykes reporting together at this time?
Yes.
And so would Ms. Dykes have been at this appointment as well?
Yes.
Okay. How did Ms. Morano and Ms. Dykes respond to this information?
Ms. Morano actually started crying. She was pretty upset. And Ms. Dykes was just telling her, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry.
In your interactions with the two of them, could you ever tell who would take the lead in communicating with you all? Or the lead in terms of how they would give information to you?
They would both email about the same frequency, but in person, it did appear that Ms. Dykes was definitely a little bit more dominant. Ms. Morano was a little bit more quiet, a little more subdued.
And so then we're at November 2021, there's some complaints that the device is too tight, but Sentinel says it looks fine.
Yes.
Was there ever any follow-up from Ms. Morano about the device to get it off, or to get it loosened back up?
Yes, so she did report on Monday, and they did end up reinstalling a device on her leg.
So they accommodate and say, here, let's figure out a way to make this a little better.
Yes, sir.
And that solved the problem.
Yes, sir.
Now I want to kind of move to the next month, December of 2021. At this point, they were still compliant in their performance on electronic leg monitor.
Yes, sir.
And December 23rd of 2021, did they ask to leave the residence?
Yes.
Okay. What was the request for on December 23rd?
The request was to go to a medical office for medical lab work and to go to CVS and Target,
Was this for both of them or just one of them?
both of them.
Would pretrial services have pushed back or asked anything further on that?
No, not at that time.
That was one of those check boxes, allowable things to go do.
Yes. Medical and necessities.
So now let's talk, was there then a couple days later, a report sent to the court?
Yes, there was.
Okay, what was that?
So basically, I'm trying to gather my thoughts here.
Let's start with this. Obviously, December 25th, Christmas, I think it was that was a weekend in 2021, is that correct?
Yes, sir, it was a Saturday.
So 2021, Christmas is on a Saturday.
Yes.
Was the county closed that Friday, the 23rd? Or no?
No.
Okay. Was the county gonna be open the following Monday?
No, the county was closed that following Monday, the 27th.
How does that work for pretrial services on these holidays? Obviously, people are still being monitored 24/7.
Right. So, our office hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, which if there's a holiday, obviously, we're also celebrating that holiday and we're on vacation or off, out of the office. However, the electronic monitoring unit does have, duty phones. And with those duty phones, we are on call 24/7 in a sense. If there is a tamper alert on any of these devices, a text message is sent to that duty phone, and the duty officer would look into that tamper. Oftentimes we're calling, we're emailing, we're texting, we're trying to figure out, is it an accident or did this person truly abscond from supervision? At that point, if we do believe that the person has absconded due to the tamper alert, they're not answering the phone, we call and we speak to their emergency contact and they say, yes, they're gone. We file what's called an abscond notice. Since it's after hours, what we do is we reach out to our division in the jail, the intake division, because they do shift work 24/7. And we email that report to them, and then they go to an on-duty magistrate judge to request insufficient bond warrants be activated immediately.
So let's kind of break this down a bit. December 26th, 2021. Did you get, unrelated to this case, a tamper alert?
On the 27th, I did.
27th?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, and, but that was again unrelated to this case?
Correct.
Because you said those tamper alerts are kind of a special alert.
Yes.
And so you started to look into that, you took care of that case.
Yes.
What'd you do next?
So I was on duty and I had taken care of that tamper alert, so I turned on my laptop and was emailing the abscond notice, and I noticed that both Ms. Dykes and Ms. Morano did not have any GPS on their devices. It appeared that their devices simultaneously were disabled. And when I looked further, one device went offline at 7:28 and the other device went offline at 7:32 a.m. on the 25th of December.
So December 25th, in the AM hours, those devices stopped sending the signal.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, does that send a tamper alert if I just let my device die?
No.
But you said they both die within a couple of minutes of each other, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And how long have you been working with pretrial services, the leg monitoring division?
Almost 11 years.
So you're pretty familiar with these devices and monitoring people on these devices.
Yes, sir, I am.
And obviously, one way to have lost a GPS signal would be the device just dies. Is that fair?
That's fair.
In your training experience with, how many people do you think that you've supervised over those 11 years? Thousands?
Probably.
And in your training experience, do you believe that two devices could die within minutes of each other by just failure to charge?
It's very unlikely.
What is an explanation that, based on your training experience working with these devices and monitoring folks, that could cause these devices to go off within moments of each other?
I would say it would be either physical damage to the device itself or submersion in water.
Now, if I were to physically damage the device, would that send a tamper alert?
It could, but it might not either.
So it's possible some blunt force trauma could potentially not be so strong that it doesn't send a tamper.
Correct.
But that's the point of the tamper alert, is that if I were to try and physically damage the device, that it should send a tamper alert.
That's correct.
But if I were to submerge my device in water, are they water resistant at all?
So yes, so to an extent, defendants are told that they can shower with their devices, but they cannot take baths, go on the pool, on the hot tub. They cannot submerge their device in water.
And so it's your belief that if you were to fully submerge the device in water, that they could do exactly what happened here, which is a couple minute apart GPS service stops.
Correct.
And then what do you do? December 27th, you see this. What are the first steps to determine? You talked about calling folks.
I did. I called both Ms. Dykes and Ms. Morano. I emailed them, and I then called my manager and the assistant director, and I staffed the case with them. And
Let me pause you there. You called Ms. Dykes and Ms. Moran. You had good working phone numbers for both of them.
yes,
Did they answer?
No.
Did they call you back?
No.
You emailed. You had good communication via email. Did they email you back?
No.
Before this, had they ever complained that there were any electronic issues with these devices?
No.
So you staffed it, and then you send what's called the abscond notice. Is that
I
right?
do. I send the abscond notice just like I did the first one that had tampered earlier that day. And we were able to get insufficient bond warrants within 4 hours.
Did you contact their emergency contacts?
I don't recall if I did or not.
And the abscond notice is an actual report that you prepare and send to the court?
This is correct, yes.
Commissioner Coach Jr.?
You may.
I'm going to show you what I've marked here. It states 341. I stapled it, but it's only actually on one page. I had 2 copies of this. It states 341. You recognize that?
Yes.
Is this a copy of your abscond notice involving Miss Lisa Dykes and Miss Morano?
Yes, sir, it is.
I see it right there. States 341 is regarding Miss Lisa Dykes.
Yes.
And I'm going to show you states 342 is a almost identical report but involving Miss Morano. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then down here is kind of the subject of the report that you made that sends to the court about the abscond.
Yes.
And then it has your name as the submitting officer on them.
Yes.
This time, I'll offer states 341 and 342 for all purposes and tendering to the police for any objections.
No objection, Judge.
All right, take exhibits 341 and 342 are admitted for all purposes.
And Commissioner Publisher? And so what we have here is states 341, abscond notice, like we said, up here at the top, it says Lisa Dykes. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And list out the case numbers and has the but you are the ELM officer, is that correct?
Yes,
Here's kind of what you've already testified to, is that right? Kind of
Yes.
just the basic of when the alarms go off.
yes, sir.
We see 7:32 a.m. for Ms. Dykes and 7:28 for Ms. Moran, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And then lastly, where you submitted it on December 27th, 2021.
Yes,
And December 27th, 2021, that was that following Monday that was still a county holiday.
it was. Everyone was still out of the office.
And states 342 is almost identical, just in that it's Ms. Morano's report and that we see the language reflects that in reading as well.
Yes, sir.
Did they ever try to get back in touch with you?
No.
Ever?
No.
I'll pass it this.
Cross-examination.
The fact that someone cuts their leg monitor off, there could be a million reasons why they do that, right? You have no idea, right?
No,
You just know it's a violation and a warrant's gonna be issued, right?
that's correct.
Ms. Morano and Ms. Tyson in the first person to cut the leg monitor off here in Dallas County, right?
No, they're not, sir.
Unfortunately happens far too often, would you agree with that?
I would agree.
How long were they on the monitor, if you recall?
So Ms. Morano, was released in, April 2021, and Ms. Dykes was released in May of 2021. So, give or take 7 months.
About 6 or 7 months, and
Yes, sir.
other than the complaints about the fitting of the device, they pretty much did what y'all asked them to do, correct?
Yes, I did.
When you said that Mrs. Dykes was a little more dominant than Ms. Morano, what did you mean by that?
I just meant that a lot of times she would speak for the two of them, in the office.
You weren't like, she wasn't like aggressive with you?
Oh, no, never, no.
Okay. All right, thank you, ma'am.
Can you redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Love here, be excused.
No
Go back
objection.
to work. Thank you so much. Thank you, Judge. Please watch it. Call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor, the state calls Kathleen Nichols.
If you would please stop and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon.
Hello,
Can you state your name and spell your last name or spell your entire name for the court reporter, please?
my name is Kathleen Nichols, Kathleen, Nicholls.
Okay, and can you tell the jury what it is that you do for a living at this time?
Yes, I'm a special agent with the FBI, and I'm currently stationed in Phnom Penh, Cambodia. I'm the assistant legal attaché, so working FBI matters in Cambodia. We cover Cambodia and Vietnam.
And as far as your duties in that position, can you just let the jury know kind of just what you do on a day-to-day basis?
Sure. Basically, any sort of U.S. nexus to federal investigations. So anywhere from crimes against children to human trafficking for forced criminality, money laundering, and fugitive matters.
Okay, how long have you been in Cambodia?
I've been there since March of 2021, so just over 2.5 years.
And how long have you been with FBI?
Over 17 years.
Can you give the jury, just because it's a fascinating position, a little bit of your background and history of what you do with FBI?
Sure. I entered on duty in 2006. My first assignment was in Sacramento, California, working financial crimes. And after 3 years, I transferred to the Los Angeles division of the FBI, where I was assigned to an organized crime squad, so worked transnational organized crime for several years. I've done a 1.5 year assignment at FBI headquarters, working also in the transnational organized crime unit, and I've also worked international corruption and Nigerian organized crime, fraud, money laundering as well before I moved to Cambodia with the FBI.
And you said you've been there about 2.5 years, is that correct?
Correct.
So you mentioned that you work a lot of financial crimes, human trafficking cases, things like that. Is that right?
Yes.
From time to time, are you contacted by maybe FBI task force members or FBI members here in the States concerning fugitives?
Yes. That
Okay.
is definitely part of what I've done.
And how often does that happen?
In my 2.5 years, I've been contacted, or I've dealt with 3 different murder fugitive cases.
And when we talk about murder fugitive cases, is it a federal crime to flee the states, the United States, to avoid prosecution for murder?
Yes, don't ask me what, I'm sure it's Title 18, what United States Code it is, but yes, there is, it's unlawful flight to avoid prosecution is the name of the statute.
Okay. And so you are stationed in Cambodia. Are you aware of their, I guess, extradition practices in Cambodia to the United States?
Yes, so for your information, there's a lot of times when we're dealing with, at least with the FBI and federal law enforcement, in dealing with different countries, there are 2 things. There's a mutual legal assistance treaty, or also known as an MLAT, and then there's also often coincides with an extradition treaty. So every country will have a different relationship with the United States as far as MLATs or extradition treaties. In Cambodia, there is no extradition treaty or mutual legal assistance treaty which is an agreement basically between the 2 governments. So there is no extradition treaty or MLAT between Cambodia and the United States at this time.
So you said that you've worked on, in your 2.5 years there, 3 cases involving trying to apprehend murder defendants, people that have been charged with murder from the United States. Is that correct?
Yes, 3 different cases involving murders that took place in the United States, and the individuals charged with that murder have fled and were in Cambodia.
So at some point, did you get, were you contacted by a local FBI agent regarding Lisa Dykes and Nina Morano?
Yes, it was approximately January of 2022 when individuals from the FBI Dallas office reached out to me and said that there were 2 individuals who were suspected of murder in the Dallas area, and that travel records indicated that they were currently in Cambodia.
Okay, and so, as far as Cambodia, you work in the capital city, is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
And,
Phnom Penh is the capital of Cambodia.
Okay, can you spell that for the court reporter, please?
Sure, it's Phnom, and the second word is Pen, P-E-N-H. Took me a while to learn to spell that correctly. So Phnom Penh is the capital city, and that's where the U.S. Embassy is located, in the capital city of Phnom Penh, Cambodia.
So FBI Dallas contacts you and lets you know the travel records indicate that Lisa Dykes and Nina Morano are somewhere within Cambodia, is that correct?
Yes, they departed, according to the travel records, from my recollection, departed on Christmas Day, December 25th, and flew through Seoul, South Korea, through Uncheon Airport, and then flew into Phnom Penh.
Okay, and from your personal experience, how was that flight?
It's long and grueling.
Okay.
If there's, at the time in question, in January or December of 2021, COVID was very real in Southeast Asia, and Cambodia had just lifted in December, early December of 2021. Cambodia was the first in the region to lift their quarantine. So during COVID, a lot of times, actually in Southeast Asia, many countries had a long quarantine period, whether it was 14 days. Cambodia lifted their from 14 to 3 days, and then it was early December when they lifted their quarantine restriction.
Now, at that time, was it a requirement, although they lifted the quarantine restriction, was it a requirement to have a negative COVID test before traveling to that country?
I recall, I do believe that's correct. I know there was also COVID testing upon arrival as well. So when I arrived in March of 2021, I had to have a negative COVID test before I left the US, and then also tested again upon arrival at the airport. So they were administering COVID tests at the airport.
Now, when you received this, I guess, call from the Dallas FBI requesting, I guess, assistance in locating Ms. Dykes and Ms. Morano, what steps do you have to take at that point?
Sure. So one of the first things, so technically speaking, I don't have law enforcement authority in Cambodia. So we work very closely with local law enforcement in Cambodia. So one of my best partners, so to speak, in Cambodia is the Cambodian National Police. Also, we just refer to them as CNP. So the Cambodian National Police are partners in Cambodia. It's actually a fairly unique setup that we have, where we have an official task force with CNP and also with the Immigration Department, so General Department of Immigration. So we have an official task force where the FBI works very closely with the police and immigration.
And this task force, are these the same individuals that you work with on a regular basis?
That's correct, yeah. So our task force has about 10 Cambodian National Police officers. We have our task force leader is a 39-year veteran of the Cambodian National Police. He's worked a lot of cases throughout the years, human trafficking primarily, and has been a good partner with the U.S. Embassy altogether, but specifically with the FBI. I've worked very closely with him and the task force for my time in Cambodia.
Now, after receiving this request, you talked about working in conjunction with the task force, the Cambodian National Police Task Force. What steps do you have to take at that point?
Sure. So typically what will happen when we get information from an FBI field office, that we'll either write a formal letter, or sometimes it's an email or just a phone call stating that we've got a particular case that I've been made aware of. In this particular case, FBI Dallas contacted me, and so then I would have contacted the task force leader and explained the situation, that we had 2 subjects that were charged with murder in the United States, and so requesting their help in locating the two individuals.
And, of course, at that point, or is that the point when you all start, doing your work to kind of locate these individuals?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, what tools, what things did you all do to try to locate Ms. Dykes and Ms. Morano?
So working with immigration, we wanted to verify that the travel records, the flight records indicated that they did fly into Cambodia, but we also wanted to check Cambodian immigration records to make sure that they hadn't departed Cambodia, moving on elsewhere. So we worked with the immigration department to confirm that they, at least officially, were still in Cambodia. Then we also received information from Bank of America that they were using, Lisa and Nina were using their Bank of America ATM cards at various banks in Cambodia.
Is there a particular, I guess, Cambodian National Bank that has a lot of different ATM outlets, if you will?
Sure, so there are several different banks throughout Cambodia. The biggest bank, the most popular bank, is known as Advanced Bank of Asia, or for short, ABA. So ABA Bank is one of the most popular banks throughout Cambodia. It's located in the capital city as well as throughout in various provinces throughout Cambodia.
And did you all, you said throughout Cambodia, were there some other cities and locations in Cambodia that might be spots that you might locate them besides the capital city that I don't want to try to say?
Sure. So when first looking at some of their bank records, we did see a transaction for the Courtyard Marriott. So I had gone to, which is located in Phnom Penh, in the capital city. So Courtyard Marriott was able to confirm that both Lisa and Nina had checked into the Courtyard Marriott and were staying there, but they were no longer there. So the bank records indicated that there were some ATM transactions. I believe there were some other transactions as well, but we were tracking, we meaning FBI Dallas, as well as myself and with the task force, tracking ATM transactions in a town called Sihanoukville. I can spell that for the court.
Yes, please.
Sihanoukville. There's a lot of activity in Sihanoukville these days. It's there's a lot of human trafficking for forced criminality that's happening in Sihanoukville, a lot of fraud compounds, a lot of fraud victims in the United States and around the world. So Sihanoukville has become well known in the human trafficking fraud. But back in early 22, Sihanoukville used to be a sleepy coastal town, and it's developing more as there's a lot of Chinese organized crime that's there, but it is on the coast of Cambodia. I should know my geography and tell you what sea it is that's right there. I believe it's the Sea of Thailand that is on the coast of Cambodia. But Sihanoukville is a port city. There's a large port there as well.
Okay. And so, as you mentioned back in 2022, January 2022, this is more of a sleepy coastal town versus what it's kind of turned into in the.
In 2022, a lot of casinos were built. They were half built. A lot of the construction started, but then with COVID, not a lot was happening for a while. In 2021, they were very strict with COVID, similar to how things were shut down here in 2020. Things were shut down in 2021, actually, in Cambodia. So a lot of the construction halted. So still developing at that point, or half developed, I would say, probably in early 2022.
Now, so you locate some ATM withdrawals, some bank records that are indicating that there's some ATM withdrawals in that town. What do you do next?
So we see the financial transactions showing that there are ATM withdrawals in Sihanoukville. So, my task force leader and two of my task force officers, we travel. It was, at the time, it took about 5 or 6 hours to get from Phnom Penh to Sienaville, in trying to locate Lisa Dykeson and Nina Morano. So we arrive in Sienaville, we meet with the provincial police there, just to kind of explain that we were from Phnom Penh, and explain just face to face what our purpose was, why we were in Sienaville, and the goal of our mission there was to locate Lisa Dykeson, Nina Morano, and take them into custody.
After meeting with the local law enforcement there in Sienaville, is that correct?
Sienaville.
Sienaville, what did you do all after you met with them?
Sure. So, kind of feeling like we were looking for a needle in a haystack, or there were multiple ATM machines throughout Sienaville. So, one of the things that I thought we would do is start with, there were a couple of hotels in the area that were more friendly towards Westerners. So I thought maybe we would, try to see if they were staying at one of those hotels. So the first hotel, typical FBI investigations, we would ask to talk to a manager. Unfortunately, the hotel manager wasn't available. This would have been in approximately around February 24th of 2022, 23rd or 24th. And so met with the hotel manager wasn't available, so they said that I could meet with the front desk manager. So I met with the front desk manager along with my 2 task force officers and the task force leader. So explained why we were there, that we were looking for 2 individuals. I had pictures of both Lisa Dykeson and Nina Morano, so I showed pictures of them, and they didn't look familiar to the hotel manager. I shared with the hotel manager, or the front desk manager, their passport numbers as well as phone numbers that we had for them at the time. The front desk manager ran through their system, the hotel system, their database, didn't find anyone with the names. I think we ran Lisa Joe Dykes and Nina Morano also with the last name of Beltran. We ran those names, or the front desk manager ran through the database, didn't find anything. And we had said that I had shared in my conversation that we had some bank transactions, ATM withdrawals in Sienaville. And the hotel manager said, well, we've got a very good relationship with the ABA bank manager. Again, ABA being the biggest bank in Cambodia, also the largest bank in Sienaville as well. So
Let me just stop you right there for just a second. So you're talking to the hotel manager, and he is letting you know that he has a good connection with the ABA bank in Cambodia, someone that can kind of help you out with getting some information about the ATMs. Is that correct?
correct, yes.
Okay. And you mentioned that you had him run the names Lisa Dyke and Nina Morano through their tracking system or their record system at the hotel. Is that correct?
Yes,
And also Beltran. Is that right?
yes.
And why did you use Beltran as well?
So I at some point I had seen a document where that Lisa and Nina had changed their last name to Beltran, so that they were married and that they had officially gone through a name change, as well as their passports that they used to enter Cambodia. Their passports had the last name of Beltran.
Okay. Now, let's talk more about the hotel manager that got you in connection with the ABA manager of the National Bank of Cambodia. Were you able to contact this person and get some leads about where to find Lisa and Nina?
Yes, so we finished our meeting with the hotel manager, the front desk manager at the hotel, and my task force leader then contacted the ABA bank investigator or the bank manager. and that was about 4:30 in the afternoon. And my task force leader left his name and phone number, and at somewhere between 8 and 9 o'clock that night, my task force leader contacted me and said that the bank manager had located the two women.
And how were they able to locate the two women?
So looking through bank surveillance footage, they were able to identify the transaction, so they had pictures, and the bank manager shared with our task force leader pictures of both Lisa and Nina accessing the ABA ATM. And then also they were able to zoom out to the parking lot of that bank where they were using the ATM, and they identified, I believe it was a red Toyota SUV. I think it was a 4Runner, but I'm not sure. So it was a red Toyota SUV that pulled into the parking lot of the bank, and the driver got out and then opened the door for Nina and Lisa to exit the vehicle and then go access the ATM.
So what steps did you take after that, after seeing that bank surveillance footage in the red Toyota 4Runner?
So we were able to positively identify both Lisa and Nina, and also able to zoom into the license plate on the red SUV. And so once we were able to get the license plate from the vehicle, then at that point worked through, it wasn't me, it was my task force officers working through their police system and identifying the registered owner of the vehicle. Once they identified the owner of the vehicle, it was the next morning when my task force officers contacted the owner of the vehicle, who we found out was a taxi driver. And so we were able to get in contact with the taxi driver, asked the taxi driver, I wasn't part of the conversation, it happened in the local language of Khmer, but I was told by 8:30, or maybe it was even, I can't remember if I found out the night before or the morning of, that they had been in contact with the taxi driver. The taxi driver said that yes, he had picked up two Western females, and had taken them to the bank. So we knew that at least the taxi driver was able to tell us a little bit more information.
Now, what size of a coastal town is Santiville?
Sunaville, unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the Dallas area, so I can't equate it to, it's a pretty small town though. I would say the population is half Cambodian and at this point half Chinese also, but a pretty small town.
Okay. 10,000 people,
Maybe 15 or 20,000.
about 20,000 people? Okay. Now, you all were able to contact the taxi driver, and your task force was able to verify that they picked up two Western women that appeared to be Lisa Dykes and Nina Morano. What all did you do next?
So we had asked the taxi driver we were staying at a local hotel, and so we had asked the taxi driver to meet us. When I say us, it was myself and a translator that works for my office at the U.S. Embassy in Phnom Penh. So the two of us, and then my 3 task force officers. So initially the taxi driver said yes, that he would come to the hotel to meet us. Then he got a little nervous, realized that he didn't really want to be involved in a police investigation. So he, at that point, refused to come to the hotel to meet with us. However, he did say that on more than one occasion that he had picked up the two women and had taken them to the ATM. So he was able to direct us to the house where they were staying. So he kind of directed us into the general vicinity of the house where he had picked them up to take them to the bank.
And so, you're working with your task force and also with local law enforcement, is that correct?
Yes, so The national police, there's the national level, and then there's also Cambodian National Police that work in the provinces. So each province will have a commissioner and a deputy commissioner, but typically the national police from Phnom Penh, from the capital city, have a little bit more power, I guess, so to speak, over the provincial police. But we work together on several cases that I worked in different provinces. Myself with the task force go to the province, we meet with the provincial police, and then they often provide resources, meaning personnel, to help us with whatever the case may be.
Okay. And in this case, they provided those resources. Did a group of your task force and also some of the provincial police of that area travel to the location that the taxi driver described?
Yes, so once we had the general vicinity, I believe the description was 2 or 3 yellow houses sat next to each other, so where he had gone to pick up the 2 women. So we went to the general vicinity. We actually saw a group of 2 or 3 yellow houses that met the description, came in contact with, there was about a young boy that was outside. The task force officers had asked the boy if he had seen 2 Western women, and he said no. At that point, we contacted the taxi driver again, said, we're here at this location where you told us to go, and he said, well, if you go up the hill and turn right, that we were actually at the wrong house initially. So then we were able to, my task force, I stayed back. My task force went looking for another group of 2 or 3 yellow houses next to each other. And there was a young Cambodian man who had come out and made contact with my task force officers and said that his relative owned a house right down the street, and that there were 2 Westerners, 2 women, that had been staying at the house for about a month at that point. So when my task force officers showed this Cambodian man copies or pictures of the 2 women, he positively identified the pictures as the 2 women that were staying at his relative's house.
And so, I mean, this, I guess at this point, just coming across this young man, that was pretty lucky.
Yes, it was very lucky. The fact that the taxi driver remembered the house, the general vicinity, and then literally just like the saying someone came out of the woodwork was kind of how we felt that this young man had come out and voluntarily was just helping law enforcement.
Were you able to locate the house where these 2 women were renting from? I guess, was it his aunt?
I believe it was his aunt. I know it was a relative of his.
Were we able to locate that house?
We were. So he took my task force officers, and I was in a car behind, and we had taken he had taken my task force officers and showed the exact house where they were staying.
What happened next?
So at that point, we were fairly confident that we had the house where Lisa and Nina were staying. But before we did anything else, they wanted to talk to the local prosecutor. So the deputy commissioner contacted the local prosecutor, so a Cambodian prosecutor in Sihanoukville. And the prosecutor came out, the task force, my task force leader and the deputy commissioner from the province explained the situation to the prosecutor. At that point, I got a call from the task force leader, and I was told that the prosecutor wanted to talk to me as well.
Okay. Did you speak with the prosecutor?
I did. So we were at this point standing outside about 4 houses down from the house where Lisa and Nina were staying. And I explained to the prosecutor, I had showed him a copy of the Texas state arrest warrant for murder, as well as a copy of the federal arrest warrant for, we call it a UFAP warrant, unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. And there was also what law enforcement refer to as an Interpol red notice. So a red notice is a viewed internationally through Interpol, respected agency that works with law enforcement in almost every country that I've worked with in the past. So, and it's basically just a notification that there is an arrest warrant in a particular country, that these individuals are wanted in a particular country. So I was able to show the prosecutor a copy of the red notice along with the federal and state arrest warrants for both Lisa and Nina.
And upon, after that conversation, were you able to proceed forward?
Yeah, at that point, the prosecutor authorized the law enforcement officers to go to the house and to execute an arrest, to take them into custody.
And how was that arrest, commenced?
Sure. So, this was on February 25th, and Lisa and Nina had visas to reside in Cambodia, and if I recall correctly, their visas expired the next day on February 26th. So initially, the law enforcement officers, from what I was told, because I was still about 4 houses down with the prosecutor when the law enforcement officers, and to give you an idea, there were 4 or 6 law enforcement officers that had gone in tactical gear. They were in green uniforms that looked similar to, tactical uniforms. And then there were probably 3 or 4 Cambodian police officers that were in their standard police uniforms. Then my 3 task force officers were in plain clothes. So it was those law enforcement officers that had gone to the residence and then called Lisa and Nina out of the house. From what they had talked about doing was saying that they were there for an immigration check. And that's very common. FBI, we do this all the time. Our goal is to call people out of the house. It's much safer than trying to just not quite what you see in the movies. We want people to come out of the house on their own. So I believe Nina was the first one to come out, but then Lisa also came out of the house.
Okay. At that point, when Nina and Lisa come out of the house, and if I understood you correctly, there's 4 officers in tactical gear, so like SWAT team attire.
Correct.
And then 4 just kind of plain regular officer attire, and then your task force is in plain clothes, correct?
Yes.
So at least 8 police officers, or clearly visible police officers, at that home. What happens after they come outside the house?
So when they came out of the house, there must have been some sort of confusion, because at that point, the task force leader had asked me to come up to the house. So I walked just a few houses up. So I'm now in front of the house with Lisa and Nina. I identified myself. I told them that I was with the FBI and that they were under arrest for murder in the state of Texas and unlawful flight to avoid prosecution. So I told them, and I was able to give them clear, distinct commands similar to how I was taught at Quantico in training, to put their hands behind their back. And at that point, the Cambodian National Police officers put handcuffs on them. And once they were in handcuffs, one of the first things that Lisa looked at me and said, "What jurisdiction do you have here?" I was taken back by that comment, but at that point, I just responded to her saying that the Cambodian National Police that she and I would have time later to discuss, and I can explain things further, but at that point in time, that the Cambodian National Police officers had to do their jobs.
How did you take that comment?
Like I said, I was taken back. It was not something, technically, I don't have law enforcement authority, but I wasn't the one doing the arrest. It was the Cambodian National Police, the numerous Cambodian National Police officers that I was with, so I was definitely surprised and taken back by that comment.
I would imagine in your years in the FBI, it takes a little bit to I guess shock you or surprise you.
I've been through a lot, and this was definitely something that, it has stuck with me. Yes, it was very surprising.
Now, the Cambodian National Police placed them under arrest, and as part of that arrest, it's a little bit different, I guess, than here in the United States. They were in this home. Did the police with Lisa and Nina go through the home and I guess identify what their personal items were, what things should go, what things should stay?
That's correct. So the police officers went into the house and with Lisa and Nina and identifying, because they were renting the house from a Cambodian, so they were identifying all of the articles and items that belonged to Lisa and Nina that the police were going to gather and take with them.
And so did the police, I guess, allow them to take some of their personal luggage, clothing, things of that nature?
Yes, that is correct. There were clothes, there were phones, computers, some laptops, I believe thumb drives, a couple of binders of miscellaneous documents that were all taken by the police. And similar to what we would do if we were executing a search warrant in the United States, we inventoried everything, so they made a list of everything that was taken from the home that belonged to Lisa and Nina. I can tell you something else that was interesting, that
Gentlemen, object going to the narrative, and ask you to wait for the next question.
You have to wait till you're asking a question.
Okay.
Thank you.
What was one of the other things that you found interesting?
the amount of cash, so because the ATM transactions had indicated that they had gone to the bank several days prior to this encounter, this arrest, so they had cash with them. Unfortunately, some of the Cambodian National Police thought that they would help themselves to some of the cash, but Lisa and Nina were very careful when they were going through every item that was taken that belonged to them. And when the Cambodian police came to the cash and said it was about $300, I believe it was Nina who said, no, that's not right, there should be close to $6,000 there. And sure enough, my translator had overheard two of the police officers say, dude, put it back. So one of the Cambodian police officers did try to take the cash, but I guess my point is that they were very careful about each item that was taken that belonged to them. Whether the phones, there was also in the money as well, and the computers, and a binder of miscellaneous documents. And then there were 2 suitcases also where they had taken some of their clothes as well.
Now, so you were there when this property was seized, is that correct?
Yes.
And then it, I guess, went into your possession, which you then transferred it to an FBI Dallas member, is that correct?
So all of everything that was taken, we would just refer to all of it as evidence at that point in time, was taken by my task force leader. So he had everything in his possession, and where our task force is, we've got a couple of cabinets that are locked. So I think the suitcases were not locked, they were just in his office, the suitcases with clothes in them. I actually think they may have been able to take some of the clothes with them because they went to a hospital detention center for a short time because they both tested positive for COVID. So, but all of the phones, the money, the computers, and the documents would have stayed with the task force leader, locked in a cabinet until the FBI Dallas agents came to do the transport Lisa and Nina back to the United States. And at that point, then the transfer of custody from the evidence went from the task force leader directly to Special Agent Taylor Page with the FBI here in Dallas.
You mentioned that, at some point they tested positive, and when did they test positive for COVID?
So at the house, after they were taken into custody, and we had all gone into the house because I was with them, just kind of trailing the task force officers and the other Cambodian police officers. And at some point, one of my task force officers stepped outside to administer a COVID test to Lisa and Nina, and they both tested positive. So at that point, we all kind of stepped back a little bit. We're a little bit more careful with our masks and with hand sanitizer. But then after that, we knew that the search had to continue. So the officers went back into the house and continued their search and identifying all the items that belonged to Lisa and Nina.
Okay. And they were transferred to a hospital / detention facility there in that town, is that correct?
In Sienaville, yes. So our original plan was to take the two individuals
We're
in.
gonna object to her being non-responsive, she already said, answer the question.
Sustain, answer your next question.
Okay. Were they transferred to a hospital detention facility there in Sienaville?
That's correct. Once the police officers finished at the house and itemized all of the individual pieces of evidence, and Lisa or Nina signed for it, and then they were transferred to a local hospital, part of the hospital that they had turned into kind of the jail for individuals who had tested positive for COVID.
Okay, at that point, did you return to your, the U.S. Embassy in the capital city?
We stayed, the three task force officers, myself and the translator, we did stay at the hotel for a couple of days because we had been exposed to COVID, and I didn't think it was fair for me to send my task force officers home to their family and possibly expose them to COVID also. So we stayed at the hotel for a couple of days just to make sure, and then we all tested for COVID, tested negative, and then traveled back to Phnom Penh.
Okay. And then you waited some days until, I guess you received confirmation that Lisa and Nina were negative for COVID?
Yeah, so we were told by the police in the hospital that they would test after 1 week. And after 1 week, I believe Lisa tested negative and Nina still tested positive, excuse me. So a few of my task force officers went to Sienaville and then transported Lisa back to Phnom Penh to the Immigration Removal Center. And then within a few days, they tested Nina again, and once she tested negative, then she too was taken by my task force officers from Sienaville back to Phnom Penh to the Immigration Removal Center.
And once they were in the Immigration Removal Center, what steps have to be taken before they will be deported or transferred back to the Dallas area?
So the FBI, so I would have written a letter, either myself or my boss would have written a letter to both the Immigration Department, General Department of Immigration, as well as the Cambodian National Police, requesting that they be deported.
Once that letter is written, what happened next?
Yeah, the Cambodian government does the checks that they need to in order to just lawfully, according to their laws and procedures, deport individuals. So a couple of the steps that are taken is that their visas would have been revoked. That would have been done by the General Department of Immigration. So their visas were revoked, and therefore they were in Cambodia illegally. Their passports also were revoked. Their U.S. passports were revoked. That's a standard State Department consular services procedure. so to prevent them from being able to travel internationally. So their passports, which were part of the items that were taken, the US State Department had asked for their passports, so we had to get their passports and then turn those passports into the State Department that's located within the embassy compound where my office is as well.
So although there is no extradition treaty between Cambodia and the United States, there are certain circumstances where people will be deported, is that correct?
Yes, for sure. So technically, they were not, Lisa and Nina were not extradited back to the United States, but they were deported.
And had they had any, I guess, Cambodian ties, familial ties, things of that nature, would that have resulted in a different circumstance?
Yes, if by Cambodian law, if they were their constitution, if they were somehow Cambodian citizens, then they would not have been deported. In this case, because Lisa and Nina had no known family ties to Cambodia, and they were believed to be fully only United States citizens, that's why they were deported.
All right, so, Special Agent, you had mentioned earlier that several items were seized, several personal items were seized from Lisa Dykes and Nina Morano upon their arrest. And you were present for that and saw those items being seized. Did we have an opportunity to meet yesterday and go through some of the documentation and items that were seized?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And you verified that these items were indeed in the collection that were seized and put in that cabinet that you described to the jury, and then eventually transferred to Special Agent Taylor Page.
That's correct.
Okay, may I approach your honor?
You may.
All right, we have a load of stuff. We're going to. I'm showing what's been marked states 343, and do you recall this bag of items?
Yes,
Okay, and it appears just to be various identification items and things of that nature.
correct. There are some social security cards and some driver's license, and I believe it looks like one passport card.
And it states 344, does that appear to be a passport for,
Yes, this is a passport for Nina Tamar Beltran.
okay, and states 345, would be an additional passport for,
Yes, this, both passports are one-way, one transport passports. This one is for Lisa Beltran, in the name of Lisa Beltran.
okay, Lisa Beltran. And that states 345. States 346. Does that appear to be one of the flash drives, USB drives that was seized?
Yes,
And states 347 appears to be several SIM cards that were seized.
yes,
States 348, you recognize this phone and a charger and a phone in a clear case.
yes, there were several phones that were seized, and this definitely appears to be one of them.
Okay. States 349, yet an additional phone that was seized.
Yes,
States 350, this appears to be a group of phones that were seized.
yes,
Okay. And these items also have an indication, like an FBI number as well on them besides just the other packaging, is that correct?
yes,
Okay. States 351, does that appear to be the notebook that was seized with some documents inside?
yes. Just
And,
before you go on,
Oh,
this
yes.
one package is not the typical FBI packaging. So, let's see. I do remember the purple phone and the blue Motorola, so I do believe that these are the same phones.
Okay, let's, just open states 350. And so we have a collection of 5 different phones,
Yes.
and you recall, you said each of these, this is a Hawaii, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but Huawei phone, and then a blue Motorola phone, a purple iPhone, a gray iPhone, and then I guess a cream colored off-white iPhone.
Yes.
Okay, and that's all in states 350. 351, do you recognize that binder?
Yes.
And states 352, this appears to be 3 laptops that were seized. Do you
Yeah.
recall that? Okay.
Yes.
Your Honor, state offer states 343 through 350, 354?
252?
352 for all purposes.
No objection, Judge.
Alright, states exhibits 343 through 352 and the items contained therein are admitted for all purposes.
Now, Special Agent Nichols, that's not all that was seized, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so there was some additional documentation that was seized as well, and we'll go through those items. So we'll just kind of flip through these quickly. You don't have to describe them just yet, but do you recognize states 353,
Yes.
354,
Yes.
states 355,
Yes.
states 356, and 357?
Yes.
You recognize states 358,
Yes.
states 359,
Yes.
and then states 360,
Yes.
states 361,
Yes.
states 362,
Yes.
states 363,
Yes.
364,
Yes.
365,
Yes.
366,
Yes.
367,
Yes.
368,
Yes.
369,
Yes.
370,
Yes.
371,
Yes.
372,
Yes.
373,
Yes.
374, states 375,
Yes.
376,
Yes.
states 377,
Yes.
states 378,
Yes.
states 379,
Yes.
states 380,
Yes.
states 381,
Yes.
and states 382. Do you recognize all those items?
Yes.
Your Honor, state offers states, where did I start? 353 through 382 for all purposes.
No objection, Judge.
Alright, states exhibits 353, paper documents through 382 are admitted for all purposes.
Permission to publish some of those items, Your Honor?
You may.
Now, the first, I guess, item that I want to talk about is the contents of this notebook in states 351. Now, I and Mr. Brown were able to meet yesterday and kind of go through some of these things prior to your testimony. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what does it appear that this notebook contains?
Primarily LLC documents.
Okay, and what was the business called that was this LLC?
The one name is BNB Enterprises LLC, which I believe is an abbreviation. I think there's another document that actually says what BNB stands for. It's another LLC document.
We start at the back.
Here's another LLC membership certificate that's Boar and Bunny Enterprises LLC.
Okay, so Boar and Bunny Enterprises LLC. And, does it indicate on there, in this notebook, when that LLC was, initially started?
I think there's a couple different LLCs, but the date on this document is August 5th of 2021. The date on this certification of members is the 8th of August 2021. Another LLC resolution to open a bank account, also dated August 5th of 2021.
And,
Here's another, the certification of member, which is dated the 24th of September 2021. There are also IRS documents under B&B Enterprises, Lisa Beltran, sole member.
and so, based on that notebook, it does appear that they, went through all the proper, steps to create an LLC, get an employee identification number through the IRS, there's, all of those steps, after being initially arrested for, the murder of Maricela Botello in March of 2021, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in states 343, this was the various identifications of both Miss Beltrans, Nina and Lisa, correct? And we'll start with Nina. It appears this Utah identification is much older. That looks almost about the time period that my original driver's license was issued, where they typed out instead of having the digital print. And it appears that she has a passport card with the name Nina Tamara Beltran. And if we can zoom in, can you tell the jury when that card was issued?
The passport card in the name Nina Tamara Beltran was issued on December 11th, 2020.
And then here is a Pennsylvania driver's license. What is the issue date for that?
The Pennsylvania driver's license, also in the name of Nina Tamara Beltran, was issued December 12th, 2020.
Okay. And this particular New York State driver's license indicates that there's an Orlando, Florida address and the issuance date of 2014. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And as far as Lisa Beltran, we have both some social security cards with Lisa Dykes, Lisa Ahmed, and then finally a Lisa Beltran.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and then we have this Texas driver's license that it appears to expire in May 25th of 2022.
Correct.
And then we have a Pennsylvania state driver's license, that was issued December 12th of 2020. Is that,
Yes.
if you're correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we did not have a, I guess, corresponding United States of America passport card for Lisa Beltran. Do you know why that is?
I believe it was taken with, when the consular service at the U.S. Embassy had asked for the passports for both Lisa and Nina. And so I'm pretty sure that I recall a passport card for Lisa being turned into the consular service. And I probably should have turned this one in also because it's a passport card, but it must have been stuck to another card, which is why it wasn't turned in also.
Okay, so it just appears that this one probably got missed.
Correct.
And your understanding, the passport card and the actual passport itself, are they gonna have the same issuance date?
Yes,
Okay.
as far as I know, they should have the exact same issuance date.
Now, in states 345 and 344, we will look at states 345. This is Lisa Beltran, or also Lisa Dykes, passport. Can you just kind of describe to the jury, you said it was a one-use passport or a one-way passport, what is that?
Yeah, from what I've experienced and what I've been told by the consular services, in cases like this, all of their official passports are turned into consular service, but then they need a passport to actually travel from, in this case, from Cambodia back to the United States. So the consular services, in coordination with Washington DC, issues a one-way passport for the travelers.
Okay, and so this is a photo of Lisa Dykes from Cambodia, is that correct?
I believe sometimes I've had experiences where the individual refuses to get their picture taken, but I do believe that this was taken in Cambodia. The consular services will go out and take a standard visa or passport photo with the typical white background and the right size.
Now, going through some of these documents that were located during that seizure, this is states 353, and really read the Cambodia, and I'm sure, I apologize, what is the local language?
It's Khmer, it's spelled Khmer, so phonetically would be Khmer, but it's most often pronounced Khmer. So it's the Khmer language, they refer to the Khmer people being local Cambodians. Apsara is a typical traditional dance in Cambodia, so this appears to be taken from a local vendor or shop with typical Cambodian phone numbers as well.
And do those appear to be the types of photographs that you would use either for a passport or a visa application or something of that nature?
Yes.
Okay, and explain when an individual travels to Cambodia on a visa, when they get into Cambodia, what types of visas might they obtain from local people? And I'm not talking about official visas, I'm talking about from local, I guess local, I don't know if I want to say black market, or what types of visas would they be able to obtain?
So they could obtain anything from an official visa in Cambodia, you can get a visa on arrival, so you can actually get a visa when you arrive at the airport. But once you're in country, in order to get a continued visa, you can either go through an agent to get an official visa, or it's fairly common for criminals to get counterfeit or fake passports or visas.
Did you receive any information about whether Ms. Dykes and Ms. Morano were trying to obtain any visas while they were there?
So their visa, the original, at least one of the visas that they had was, I think I mentioned earlier, set to expire on February 26th. From what I had heard through my task force and talking to individuals, or maybe it was through an interview with Lisa and Nina, that they had gone to a travel agent in Cambodia, in Sihanoukville, to obtain a renewed visa.
Now, states 354, this appears to be Lisa's ticket from Dallas to Seoul, Korea. And it appears to be boarding, that flight boarding at 10:55 a.m., leaving from Dallas. Is Korean Air one of the, I guess, airlines that flies that route through Seoul?
Yes, at the time, I believe it was almost the only flight leaving Dallas in order to get to Seoul, and let alone on to Cambodia. There were due to COVID, very limited flights available. And the one main one that most people took between Cambodia and the United States was this flight through Seoul.
And this is states 355. This is actually for Nina Beltran, but that appears to be the second leg of that flight from Seoul to Phnom Penh.
Yes, you typically lose a calendar day because you cross over the international date line. So the flight, typically if it left Dallas on December 25th, it would have arrived and then departed Seoul to Phnom Penh on the following day.
And states 356 and 357. These appear to be the back of just some Cambodian customs declarations.
Correct, standard immigration declaration forms that everyone is provided on the plane when you're flying into Phnom Penh or into Cambodia. You fill out a card like this.
States 358 is the Marriott, appears to be a Marriott Courtyard receipt, and you all had information that they were staying in this hotel for a short time, is that correct?
Yes, and this receipt shows that their arrival date was December 26th, and in Cambodia they write the dates, the day of the month first and then the month, so it shows a departure date of January 8th of 2022.
And it states 359, this is just I guess, photocopy that was included in their documents of everything, with the addition of Lisa Beltran's passport card. And can you see what the issuance date is on Ms. Beltran's passport card?
Yes, this is a copy of the passport card in the name of Lisa Beltran, issued December 11th of 2020.
States 363, just another documentation of the flight. 364, same, and 365, this is for Lisa Beltran, the same documentation of their flight into, I'm sorry, how do you say that again?
Phnom Penh.
Phnom Penh.
Yes, and those look like their boarding passes as well.
States 366, this is a receipt for an amount of $4,443 charged for their trip to Cambodia, and looking at pages 2 and 3, it appears that that is a one-way, actually it's a round trip, with the date of January 25th, 2022 is their, I guess, expected, return date, is that correct?
Yes.
States 367, this is the last will and testament of Lisa Beltran. And we kind of went through this yesterday. This just has typical language for a last will and testament, is that correct?
Yes.
And the first line is if Miss Beltran passes, then everything will go to Nina Beltran. And then on page 2 of states 367, there is the predeceased paragraph, and this basically just states in the event that Miss Beltran, Nina Beltran predeceases Lisa, then everything upon the death of Lisa Beltran should go to these individuals: Rachel Ann Hansen, Chelsea Keith, Aaron Keith, Kyle Williams, Emerald Beltran, the daughter of Charles Anthony Beltran and Megan Serrato, and Charlie Beltran, daughter of Charles Anthony Beltran and Jasmine Cannon. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And these documents were executed on January 30th of 2021. Is that correct?
Yes.
States 368 is the same, but that of Nina Beltran. Is that correct?
Yes.
States 369. These are Nina's vows. Do these appear to be wedding vows?
Yes, handwritten.
Handwritten wedding vows? 370.
Those appear to be handwritten Lisa's vows.
Okay. And then 371. Move it down. Is that Nina and Lisa's unified vows?
Yes.
Okay. And then at the bottom it just mentions Nina, Lisa, and Chuck closing. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at the bottom it says, "We are hers, we are one."
Yes.
Now, when you went through everything, did you see any vows laminated like this for Chuck?
No.
States 372. This is a document for Nina Morano, is that correct?
Yes.
And it's dated December 10th of 2021, is that right?
Yes.
And it is an application to refund basically her contributions to the retirement system, is that correct?
Yes.
And that's just the back of that notice, is that correct?
Correct.
Now, when we were going through these documents, did it appear also that Nina was a poet and had a lot of handwritten, poetry and things like that really have nothing to do with this case?
Yes.
States 376, this is the marriage license for Nina and Lisa Beltran, dated May 8th of 2020.
Yes.
This states 377. This is a list of various countries, and were you able to do some kind of research on what these countries have in common?
Yeah, so this is a list of various countries in order by population, and several of these countries on this list are all countries where there is no extradition treaty between the United States and these countries listed.
And then on the second page,
It appears to be a map of Morocco.
states 378, this is appeared to be a COVID test taken on December 23rd of 2021.
Yes.
For Lisa Beltran,
Correct.
and that location was
Farmers
Farmers Branch, Texas.
Yes,
Are you familiar with Farmers Branch is?
I'm not, but I could look up the zip code and tell you whether or not it's close to Dallas.
Okay, that's okay. States 379 is the same for Nita Beltran, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, you mentioned that this was the third of this type of case that you worked on during your time in Cambodia, is that correct?
Murder fugitives, yes. Dealt with a couple of other deportations as well, but
And date-wise, if I recall correctly, you said that you kind of began your search in the city of, right, you just tell the jury, what day did you begin your search for them in the city of San?
Sienna. It was, I recall early January when I found out that they had flown to Cambodia, and we were looking actually in Phnom Penh for a little while. Got information that they had stayed at the Courtyard Marriott, which is located in Phnom Penh. There was some information that someone thought that they may have seen them in an area along the riverside. So we did some surveillance there in Phnom Penh, did some surveillance there in January. I don't recall exactly the date, but it was somewhere between late January or early February when we got information that their ATM was used in Sihanoukville. And then there were several transactions, appeared to be, if I recall correctly, ATM transactions in Sihanoukville.
You mentioned that there was a sighting or a tip that they had been seen somewhere in Phnom Penh. Do you all receive a lot of tips like that about, sighting of these individuals?
Not often, so it was something that we definitely wanted to act on. Whether or not it was Lisa and Nina, we did not confirm, but when our task force officers went out to do the surveillance, they did not see them.
Okay. But the bank records and the bank ATM usage certainly was a very good piece of evidence and a good indication of where you can find them.
Definitely.
Dr. Passwoods.
Cross-examination.
Should I say agent?
Special agent.
Special agent? I want to make sure.
ALAT is my current title, Assistant Legal Attaché.
Okay, well, Special Agent, I want to have a few questions for you. You said you were shocked when she asked if you had jurisdiction to make the arrest. You didn't have jurisdiction to make the arrest, correct?
No, it actually was not me that was executing the arrest, it was the Cambodian National Police.
But you come up to them and tell them to put their hands behind their head or whatever orders you're giving them, and she's saying, what jurisdiction do you have? Because you didn't have any to instruct them, did you?
The task force leader had asked me to come up and to explain to them what was happening.
Okay. Ma'am, whether you're talking about Cambodia or you're talking about the United States, it's not unusual, or I'm not gonna say not unusual, but people who feel like they're being persecuted by their country sometimes go to other countries to seek political asylum, don't they?
I suppose so.
I mean, it happens all the time. It especially happens here in the United States. Would you agree with that?
I don't know, sir, honestly, I haven't worked in the United States for a few years.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, as far as people who feel that they're being persecuted for whatever reason by their country, or falsely accused, whatever, it's not unusual for people to try to go to other countries to seek political asylum.
I suppose.
Okay. And as far as Lisa, we see all these documentations. They had lawyers over there, didn't
Pardon me?
they? They had lawyers, didn't
In Cambodia?
they? Yeah.
Not that I'm aware of.
Well, they can speak to whether or not they had lawyers, correct?
Yes, I think so.
Okay. As far as, you indicated that there was no extradition treaty, that they were actually deported, right?
Correct.
Okay. So whether or not they were trying to fill out asylum paperwork, you have no idea, because that's not something y'all looked into, correct?
Correct.
That's fine. Thank you, Special Agent.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be finally excused.
No objection, Your Honor.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Special Agent. You're free to leave and go about your business. Safe travels.
Thank you.
Thank you. Watch your step. Call your next witness.
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may. Oh. Sorry, we've been at this for a while. We're gonna take our afternoon break. So, 10 minutes. We're at recess.
Thank you.
All rise.
Mrs. Baston, you have your daughter's thing today?
Tomorrow.
Oh, it's tomorrow. Okay. All right, then we just stay till 7.
If we stay that long, we'll finish. I think I have 3 more.
Just so I understand that.
Just so you know, I think we're winding down.
I did not think about deportation. Won't that get you?
So everything stays look at being 39 this morning.
I know. Yeah, well, we're holding at 75.
Yeah, that was a lot better than last week at 80.
Yeah. Get on my Google Earth.
What am I at in evidence? Good.
Where did he run off to?
Crossing paths on the way to the restroom, but you don't know where.
Three.
All right. Get on Google Earth. You know, my great uncle fought in the Vietnam War. And he was a mess up at that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's Quay. Yeah, he was in the Battle of Quay, which was terrible.
Your uncle?
Great uncle.
Oh, really? Was he like a career military?
No, he was drafted.
Okay. Yeah, 'cause my uncle was there and then went to Camp Oak. They sent them to Camp, yeah. And then my dad.
Well, the Battle of Quay was terrible because it was a small U.S. force and they didn't think they were going to run into that apparent, a lot of North Vietnamese, and it was a very compact city, so it was more like urban warfare that was very, very difficult and very,
Bad, yeah.
yeah, it was bad. And they didn't know about post-traumatic stress or anything like that back in the 70s, so.
Even though, yeah, we know that, but I think
Yeah.
back they were still calling it like shell shock from World War I.
Yeah.
That term that they used in
Yeah.
World War I. Yeah, but my grandmothers, like both of my grandmothers, that my uncle and my dad would wake up with like just screaming, having nightmares.
Yeah,
And my dad would always say he would hate it when it would rain because it would remind him of Vietnam. So whenever it rained here, he was
yeah.
not in the best mind frame.
All right, you have another witness for us?
Yes, Judge, he's in the courtroom.
Fantastic. All right, we're ready for the jury. Okay. And then my great uncle survived the Baton Death March in World War II. Yes, one of the few that survived that.
Well, I know 'cause it was like only a handful that even made it.
I know he was like 17 or 18, that's, I think, the young ones survived. Their bodies could just take more. But yeah, they marched him, hundreds of, a few hundred miles.
And really no food.
They had no food or water, just what they could get. If you fell down, they shot you where you were.
Your uncle may have been on one of those documentaries, because I was a
Yeah.
history major and all of that stuff.
Okay.
And they said like they were weighing
I don't know, he didn't
65
tell me.
pounds.
Yeah,
and-
he was so thin when he came back, according to the family. But he was, and then of course, that was right at the beginning of World War II, and then he was put in a prison camp the rest of the war,
all of that.
the whole rest of the war. We're ready. Yes.
All rise.
They were starving. You may be seated. Call your next witness.
The state calls Detective Daniel Hinton.
All right, sir, if you would please stop and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, can you state your name and spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Yes, my name is Daniel Hinton. Spell it as well, you said, sorry?
Yes, please.
Daniel, space Hinton.
And can you tell the members of the jury what it is that you do for a living?
So I work for the Dallas Police Department. I've worked for them for the last 13 and a half years. I currently work in their digital evidence lab associated with financial crimes, and we process digital evidence and try to do analysis work with detectives. Before that, I've worked in various other units, crimes against children, and of course, every works the street as well when you start.
And is there any special training or qualifications that you have to work in the financial crime unit that you work in?
Yeah, I think the lab requires, so our lab has a very good relationship with the Secret Service, and the Secret Service provides a lot of advanced training or some basic training and then further advanced training. I also have a degree in computer science, which I worked in software for a little over 20 years before becoming a Dallas police officer. So, yeah, there's ongoing training, doing all kinds of stuff. Some of the recent stuff was like skimmers and micro soldering and lots of stuff, because there's a lot of devices are now, light bulbs could be a device that could be of interest. I mean, when people come in and front door locks and all that stuff. So as a society, there's a lot of digital devices always being around. So training is really important for sure.
Okay. And as far as your work in the lab, what type of work do you do there?
That's
Is that
it's a
very
little
broad
bit of a loaded
question?
question. I'm sorry. So we're a little short staffed, so I do pretty much everything in the lab. So but as a lab, we serve basically all digital devices. And our focus in our lab is really the analysis work, trying to offload work from the detectives so they can continue off their cases. They can come to us and let us know what they're looking for. We can try to help sort through, like in most cases, there's like up to 1 million or more pieces of information that are found that have to be sorted through. So it takes a little time. It's not a very quick process.
Are you able to, do you have certain software capabilities and things of that nature to extract information on things like USB drives, SIM cards, laptop computers, things of that nature?
Yes, we do.
Okay, and in particular, you have a program called the Axiom program. Can you tell the jury about the Axiom program?
Okay, so Axiom is an analysis tool. It's put out by Magnet. Magnet does a lot of different digital things. They do training. They're a pretty strong force in the digital forensics field. We use their tool for, once we acquire data, we'll ingest it into Magnet, and then that'll be a tool that we can search through. The tool is pretty robust and be able to look for like comparable pictures and running. If you have an image with street names, license plates, whatever else, it can pull out all the text in an image and different things like that. And it allows you to really kind of find pieces of information that it's not just in a text document or an email. It might be a car license plate that's not even really part of the picture. So Yeah, their software is really useful, and then we have other tools that actually acquire there's a few primary tools, Celebrite makes them, GrayQ makes them, that are required to actually acquire data these days because everything's encrypted, or most everything's encrypted.
In this particular case, or I guess just in any case, how do you receive evidence to be extracted?
Right, so the way our lab works is a detective will come, and our lab's secured, so we'll let them in, and then we have a request form that they fill out, and then we'll take their property from them, and they will articulate what they're looking for, which is kind of the bulk of, if you looked at our request form, that's kind of the big section, that's what we're really interested in. Of course, they have to provide legal process, search warrants, stuff like that for the devices that they submit. And I mean, that's kind of the process. They bring it to us, we take custody of it, they sign it over to us, and then when we're done with it, when we give them our deliverables plus their original data, they sign back for it, take it back.
Okay, deliverables and those things like certain reports,
Yeah.
information about the devices, things of
Yes.
that nature?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and then you generally provide a case file that's kind of a portable case with which they can also go through the extraction information using the Axiom program.
That's correct.
Okay. Your Honor, at this time I would like to offer states 283 through 287 for record purposes only. And these are the search warrants concerning certain devices in this case. Later after defense counsel.
No question, no.
I'm sorry, what numbers?
383
Thank you.
through 387.
Alright.
Now,
Hold on, I'm sorry,
yes.
383 through 387 are admitted for record purposes only.
thank you, Your Honor. Now, did you receive several USB devices, 3 laptop computers, and a number of SIM cards from a Detective Ortiz back in, I believe it was December of 2022?
I think so. Can I reference my notes as well? Is that?
Yes, if you'd like to reference your notes to refresh your recollection.
Let's make sure. Sorry, it's kind of a lot, sorry. I just want to refer to the note from my report as well.
Okay.
So, yeah. Yeah, December 1st, he brought them in, and there were 10 devices, yes, 3 SIM cards, 4 USBs, and 3 laptops.
And he brought the accompanying search warrant, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I think there were 5 in total.
5 search warrants?
I think so.
Now, I want to focus on just a couple of those devices. Now, the search warrant references in regards to the USB drives, just 4 USB drives and kind of the name of the USB drive, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and I'm showing you what's been already admitted as States Exhibit 346. Does that appear to be the on-brand ONN?
Yeah, it looks like my label, and it looks like the same device as well.
Okay, and then your label, you generate a particular number, is that correct?
Right, so we try to barcode everything. We'll put the case number that is actually associated in our lab. Our lab will create a case number, and then we'll have a case number with the department or whatever agency we're servicing. And then we'll put a device number. So this one, it's 2022-59-4. So this would be like item 4 in my report. You can see this listed as item 4.
Okay, and short-term memory problem. This was a part of States 352, an HP laptop.
Mhm.
And,
Yeah.
is this the HP laptop that you also received from Detective Ortiz?
Yes, it looks very familiar. It's damaged. It's got my label and the numbers as well.
Okay.
Yes,
And-
ma'am.
Did you complete an extraction of this laptop as well?
I did.
Upon that extraction, did you create some reports concerning the contents of those two items?
Yes.
And Detective, I'm showing you what's been marked states 388 through 391. Now 388, is that just a photograph of that HP laptop?
That's correct.
Okay.
If I see.
And then it states 389, is that a photograph of that particular flash drive?
Yes, it is.
Okay, now states 390, is that a copy of your forensic examination report?
It looks like it for sure. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it's got all the information on it. It appears to be mine, yes.
Okay, and does this include the two items that states 389 and 388, the
Yes.
extraction report of those items?
Right, it'll include those two and everything else as well, yes.
Okay, and also 391, does that, states 391, does that appear to be your extraction report?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, it does.
And that extraction report, again, is of items 388 and 389. I'm sorry?
Yes. I'm sorry, yes. Just looking. Yes.
Okay. Your Honor, State Office 388 through 391 for all purposes, enter into defense counsel.
No objection, Your Honor, it is previously sent.
Now,
All right, so State's Exhibits 388 through 391 are admitted for all purposes.
thank you, Your Honor. Now, before we publish your examination reports, in total, there were over, what, 991,000
Yeah, artifacts.
artifacts. Can you tell the jury what an artifact is?
Yeah, so the software, like in our case, Magnet Axiom, when it understands certain properties about all kinds of different devices. And so anytime it finds a piece of information that it understands, maybe it's a PDF file or an image, or it's a certain type of a file, then it declares that, it labels it as an artifact, basically. And then, so the process of review will go through, out of all those artifacts and try to identify items of interest based on what the detective is looking for. So the report has in this particular case, had a pool of like, I usually put it in my report. So, yeah, over 911,000 artifacts were in that pool to go through, which is partly why it takes so long to process these devices.
So 911,000 artifacts, and that could be PDFs, Word files, anything that the program identifies as a piece of information.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, are you able to then kind of narrow the focus using the program to certain items?
Yeah, so the software is very good about categorizing stuff. So right off the bat, it'll categorize and it'll give you high-level things. Like you'll have a category of media, for example, and then inside media there might be all different types of files that have media, video files, images, different types of image files, those kind of things. So the software tries to break it down in what it understands at a high level, so you can kind of, if you want to look at communication, you can go to communication, and you can go into text messages or emails or whatever else and kind of break it down into stuff. So yeah, the tool is very robust, but a good tool for sure.
And the program itself, the Axiom tool, it takes quite a bit of, I guess, memory on a computer for it to be able to.
It can be, when there's a lot of artifacts, it can be a little bit of a, yeah, so another function of the lab will often let people come in and use a computer or something, because unfortunately not all of the resources not all of the computers that are given to people will run all the, I mean, it's not their fault, they have a lot of devices in their case, so, yeah, we allow people to use our devices sometimes to look at their reports, for sure.
Permission to publish states 390, Your Honor.
You may.
Now, this is your forensics examination report, and looking at page 1, that's states 390. That's just your cover sheet. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. This particular report, the case was generated December 16th, and the report was generated December 20th of 2022. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. We won't go through every page of this, but page 3 of this report, does this just kind of highlight each of the devices that you are attempting to extract information or have extracted information from using the Axiom program?
Right, so as we ingest or as we allow the software to go through and kind of identify artifacts, we will typically identify a piece of evidence with information like here. We typically will try to use the case number to the device number. Like you can see evidence items at 2022-59, that's the case, and then -10, that tells me that's device 10.
Okay.
So it's easy that way when you're looking at the reports, you can quickly identify what device it was found on.
And so in this case, you had 10 devices to extract and SIM cards and some flash drives and 3 laptop computers. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And we only see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 listed. What does that indicate to you?
Oh, well, yeah, okay, so there were a couple of the drives on the Dells were encrypted, so they were able to be acquired, but acquiring encrypted data, I mean, it's not all that, it's, the acquisition isn't the difficult part, it's really understanding the data. So an encrypted drive, like most everybody's phones these days, is gonna be encrypted. So yeah, we acquired it, but it's encrypted and it has no value in its encrypted state, so it's probably not included there. I would have to bring it up to look, but that would be my assumption.
Okay. And the next page, page 4, this is just kind of an example of, or is this an example of how this program kind of reports back to you certain, I guess, artifacts of interest?
So this is, the lab generates a couple deliverables. We have an examiner report, which is a little more human readable and articulates kind of specific details related to what the detective is doing. This report is a more general report. As we're going through and processing the device, there'll be things that might be of interest. It might be a photograph that's related somehow, or things that as we're looking at the data, we think it could be of interest to the detective. So we'll typically tag all those as of interest. And then at the end, I mean, and then we'll go through a course of review with the detective as well before we produce our final. But this report here, like record 2, that would be an item. If you look at that first line, it says tags. In the software, you can identify, you can put stuff as evidence, or you can create any kind of tag you want to tag all the pieces of data. But these are all of interest. We just try to produce a generic, not a generic, but a simple report of items of interest for this case. And so these are all items of interest in this case.
Okay. And the first few pages appear to just, the items of interest just appear to be various email addresses of either Nina Morano, or I don't know who Milton Mocha is. It's a username, iCedamsel at Hotmail. You don't really know what the importance of these things are. They are just tagged as items of interest.
Yeah, so a lot of the devices the software is pretty good about trying to identify users of devices. And so that's something, of course, you want to identify right away, is try to identify who the device might belong to, and usernames and email accounts and all those things. typically get tagged as of interest because they potentially have either another path for searching down, providing, maybe the detective will want to pursue an email account that they didn't know about, and they'll get legal process and they'll pursue that. So there's information potentially in here that they may or may not know already, so we'll tag it as potentially of interest.
Okay, and just for the jury, just to kind of educate us on some of these things, the created date and time, it says 5:31 of 2020 at 2:47 p.m. Do you know if that is 100% accurate about when that was created, or can you give the jury kind of an explanation about what that is?
Dates and times are difficult with digital devices for the most part. It's kind of a hard question. I mean, there's people, it's almost like if you're an auto mechanic, it doesn't mean you can fix a transmission necessarily, because you probably want to take apart a transmission mechanic for that. Dates and times is one of those things too. The whole field of data analysis is a broad field. Just like you go to a doctor, you don't just go to one doctor. If there's something wrong with your brain, you want to go to a brain specialist or something. It's similar to like that. There's people that could probably tell you a lot more about dates and times than I do. I approach dates and times with caution. This is probably a pretty accurate, I mean, it says it's the date it was created, but what that means is a little harder to define for this particular one that you're showing me right here. I don't feel like I'm answering your question.
No, it's complicated, is that correct?
It is, yes, that's
Okay.
right. Especially when we have multiple devices with different operating systems and files being copied to and from USBs and all that stuff. All those dates interact and it gets really messy very quickly.
Okay. Now, looking here on page 6 of States 390, one of the of interest thing here is a username of Death Angel 7163, and that platform is Instagram, and the service is Instagram.com. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, it looks like the password is, these numbers, letters, this combination of numbers and letters right there.
That's correct.
And then it appears on page 6 that, as opposed to page 4 of States 390, that these addresses are a combination of Lisa and Nina at Outlook.com, then we have Nina Beltran and N Beltran, which before we had Nina Morano as the primary email address. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Looking on page 12 of States 390, does this appear to be a picture of a passport for Nina Beltran?
I'm sorry, was that a question?
Yes, does this appear to be a
Yes, it looks like that to me.
okay, and the issuance date on this picture appears to be September 20th of 2021, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, do you recall, and I'm looking for the line here, what device you were able to extract that
Right. So
particular?
if you down at the bottom, you'll see source, and if you look at the ID number, you'll see it's the case number -4, so that would have been on the USB drive.
Okay, the on USB drive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And that particular drive seemed to have a lot of information that some
Yeah,
used.
it looked like it had a lot of Dropbox related stuff copied to it.
Okay. Does this appear to be a passport for Lisa Beltran of the same issuance date?
Yes, ma'am.
Page 14 of States 390. Now, I don't expect you to know the relevance or importance of this, but does this appear to be
I recognize it, yeah.
you recognize that document?
Yeah, just because it was interesting because of the different fonts and stuff on it for the nation it's from.
Okay. Artisans Association of Cambodia, and it it's addressed to both Nina Beltran and Lisa Beltran, and the date is October 24th, 2021.
Right.
Concerning the registered name enterprise at B&B Enterprises LLC. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then we have Boar and Bunny Enterprises LLC mentioned down at the bottom with contact person Nina Beltran. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Page 15 of states 390, that appears to be a continuation of that letter. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And this particular part is talking about traveler information of Lisa Beltran and kind of the trip purpose of identifying products that are marketable in the B&B target market, create relationships with manufacturers, undertake market research studies, and analyze the results to develop a strategy for growing a global outlet for the identified Cambodian products. Length of stay, 30 days. Is that?
Yes, ma'am. That's what it says.
Okay. Page 16 of States 390, this is another letter, and it appears to be directed to the Royal Embassy of Cambodia. And again, this is concerning the B&B Enterprises LLC. Is that correct?
Yes.
And this is concerning Nina Beltran, and it's to confirm that Nina Beltran is engaged in as the brand development director for B&B Enterprises LLC. This particular document is dated November 2nd, 2021. Is that appear correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I believe there is a sentence there. Ms. Beltran will be traveling to Cambodia from December 26th to 2021 to January 25th, 2022 for a total of 30 days to identify products that are marketable.
Yes.
Is that accurate?
Yes.
Okay. State 17 appears to be pretty much the same letter from the same enterprise, but this one is for Lisa Beltran. Is that correct?
Ms. Beltran, that's correct.
State, page 22 of States 390, does that just appear to be a marriage certificate for Nina Tamar Morano and Lisa Dykes?
Right.
Page 27. That should appear to be a United States passport card for Lisa Beltran with the issuance date of December 11th, 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
And does that appear to be a driver's license for Charles Anthony Beltran?
It looks like an ID card for,
And I'm sorry, it's an ID card.
yes, ma'am.
Okay, different than a driver's license.
Yes, ma'am.
Expiration date of 5/8/18.
That's right. Yes.
That appear to be a birth certificate for the same individual.
Yes, Charles Beltran.
Now, here on page 44 of States 390, of interest, what does that file name say?
It says T Visa.
T Visa?
Yes.
Were you able to pull any other information about that particular PDF, if you're aware?
I can't remember and I can't tell from just this, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'm gonna do it on my computer if I need to look at the website. Sorry.
File name B&B Enterprises LLC _ S4 PDF. And then the author there appears to be the IRS. Is that the Internal Revenue Service? Is there?
Yeah, there were several EIN forms and stuff that were part of this case, so it could be a IRS form, I don't recall.
I'm sorry, what? I can't hear you.
There were several, like correspondences from the IRS for these businesses, so the tax ID number, the EIN number. So there were forms from other entities on these devices. I couldn't say again, I'm sorry, without actually looking at the document. But the author is, so, can I articulate?
Yes.
So devices,
Explain that.
different types of files can have other information, and we might have a file that's a picture, but it might have all kinds of stuff, like on your phone, it might have where it was taken, who took it, what device took it, all that stuff, it's called metadata. And all kinds of files have metadata, PDF files, Word files, all these have metadata, and it may or may not be accurate, but so that author field there would probably come out, I would assume that came out of the metadata associated with this PDF file, and at the time that this was captured, it contained IRS in it.
States 46, I'm sorry, not States 46, page 46 of States 390. The file name here is the Lisa Beltran e-visa application PDF. Was that another item that was tagged of interest?
Yes, it was tagged of interest.
Okay, and then also the Lisa Beltran T-visa application, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
There on States page 48 of States 90, is that the pretrial conditions of bond that appears to be on the flash drive?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that is, again, this is the flash drive,
-4.
Dashboard.
That's correct.
Now on page 60 of your report, this was tagged of interest in it. It says suspect Charles Beltran 0403-2021.wma. What kind of file is that?
It's a Windows media file.
Okay.
So, it's, in this particular case, it was an audio recording. So there's a long audio recording,
About 2 hours and 11 minutes?
something like that, yeah, of the interview.
Okay. Of the interview of the co-defendant Charles Beltran.
That's correct.
And then this was on device 8?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and that would be the HP laptop that we
That's
discussed.
correct. It was also on 4.
That same interview was also on the flash drive.
Yes, ma'am.
and that's listed on, page 69 of states 390, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Also Windows Media File, suspect Charles Beltran, 04/03/2021.
Yes,
Okay, that was the actual recording.
yes. Yeah, and you can, the two rows there, MD5 hash and SHA-1 hash, are basically file signatures that identify the contents. So if those two, if one of those matches to the other one, then you know their file's exactly the same. So and that's kind of how we prove that files didn't change or that they were original, because we'll hash things. And it's, you can think of it as like a fingerprint almost. It's kind of unique to a file. It's an algorithm that's generated, and if one little tiny bit in the file will change, you get a total different number. So that's why the report also contains hash files, so that can be verified.
So, I mean, just to kind of sum up, there are several other of interest items tagged throughout this report, but whoever had possession of the laptop and of the flash drive also had possession of Charles Beltran's interview.
Yes, it appears so, yes, ma'am.
Now, it states 391. You did, I guess, a search, for lack of a better term, for a certain time frame that I asked you to look at for the flash drive and also the HP laptop. Is that correct?
Is this the one for today?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And looking at page 5 of states 391. It appears search, and these are, let me back up a little bit. What particularly did I ask you to look for, if you recall?
Let's see. Searches for passport, change name, form. Of course, this is gonna be my scripted thing, it may not be exactly what you.
Yeah, that's okay.
This is what I wrote down.
What things were you looking for?
Right, and then child support, we're on K9, and passport photo portal. Those were kind of the main ideas that you were looking for. At least
Okay.
that's what I took.
And were many of these items Google searches?
Yeah, in different, in different viewers, but yeah, Google searches were used, yes.
Okay. And so we have search term on record 1, page 5, it states 391. The search session starts 10/10/2020. Is that date fairly accurate?
I would expect so.
Okay.
It's not in our time zone, but it is, that time is correct, I would expect.
Okay. And again, same search term, passport photo tool online, 10/10/2020. Looking further down page 5, search term of passport appointment, and that search appears to be done on 3/6/2020. You said,
10/6 of 2020?
I'm sorry, 10/6/2020 at
Yes, ma'am.
3:33 p.m. Now that's in UTC time, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we
It's
back
6 or
up.
5, I always have to look.
Okay.
Myself, so yeah,
So we back up either 5 or 6 hours to
Correct.
find the appropriate time.
right.
So as far as this is concerned, if it was 3:33 p.m., math
9.
skills,
10.
about 9 or 10 a.m.
Yeah,
on 10/6, is that correct?
yeah, somewhere on there.
Okay, and the search is for a passport appointment. Here at the bottom, record 4 is another search for a passport photo tool online. Looking here at page 7 of states 391, under review tags, it says username C Beltran 89, and the created date time is 10/9 of 2020, about 8:25 p.m., which is about 3 p.m. Central Time.
Dennis, you
And
have to answer out loud.
I'm
yes or
sorry.
no, please.
Yes,
okay,
sorry.
the URL there is texassmartchildsupport.com. Is that
Yes, that's what it says.
okay? Looking at page 9 of the state's 391, it just appears to be 4 records of various passport renewal, free passport photos online, U.S. State Department Google search, and U.S. passports. Is that accurate?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the first 3 are on 10/10 of 2020, and the U.S. passport renewal application is 10/6 of 2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Page 10 of States 391, again, are multiple passport agencies, Dallas passport agencies, searches, and websites, all dated 10/6 of 2020.
That's correct.
So there are several of these tags based on that search for passports, and it appears that those tags occurred, or the created time was 10/6 of 2020 or 10/10 of 2020, in that range.
That's correct.
Okay, here on page 14, does this appear to be a photograph of an individual?
Yeah, I tagged it because it looked like it could be a candidate for a passport photo with a background and all.
Okay.
And it was in the time of interest for you.
Page 15 of States 391, we're looking at record 2, and the file name is Child Support Payment 10/19 of 2020. And then page page 18, that's the last page of your report, is that correct?
Yes, it looks like.
Back up just a little bit. And that was just based on the passport search, the child support search, and that time frame that
Correct.
I requested you to do this work,
That's
is that correct?
Yes, yes.
All right, pass the list.
Cross-examination.
Detective Hinton, when you were doing these searches, did you find any searches or information about asylum paperwork or asylum requirements that you recall?
I don't recall finding asylum. I don't think I searched for asylum either though.
Okay, so you would have been actually searching for that?
Well, I mean, so all the information's still there, but when you search, then it's trying to find that key word in all these different artifacts. So you can still stumble across information all the time, that happens all the time, but I don't recall stumbling across this asylum, and I don't remember that being part of the search criteria for us.
Okay, And there were over 900,000 artifacts.
That's correct, 911 over, yes.
Okay, did you find case files in there since both of these individuals are in the legal profession, one being an attorney, one being a paralegal? Did you find case files regarding clients?
It looked like there were a lot of legal documents as well, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Direct, all right. May this witness be finally excused.
No objection from the state.
None from defense, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Detective Hinton.
Thank
You're
you,
free
ma'am.
to leave and go about your business.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you all.
Call your next witness.
Your Honor, the state calls Taylor Page.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Thank you. You may be seated. Ms. Pittman, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, can you state your name and spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Yep. My name is Taylor Page, it's spelled Taylorpage.
And can you tell the jury what it is you do for a living?
I'm a special agent with the FBI here in Dallas.
What are your qualifications that allow you to be a special agent?
We go through about a 5-month training program out in Quantico. We've got continued training once we're actually assigned to an office, both in the way of legal proceedings as well as general tactical training, things of that nature.
How long have you been a special agent with the FBI?
Coming up on 6 years.
Always in Dallas?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And do you all sometimes work in conjunction with local law enforcement on certain violent crimes?
Yes, I'm assigned to a violent crimes task force, so we've got some FBI agents assigned, as well as officers or detectives from various local police departments around the area.
Now, as a special agent, what are some of the types of cases that you investigate, and kind of what do you do on a day-to-day basis?
Yep, so specifically the violent crimes task force, as you may assume, is focusing on violent crimes. So robberies, specifically robberies of businesses, will also work. Kidnappings, carjackings, bank robberies, anything that's got kind of a violent nexus to it.
Are you also CAST certified?
Yes. I am.
And can you just tell the jury what CAST is?
Yep, so it's the Cellular Analysis Survey Team, so I'm a member of that team for the FBI. We go through various certification in order to look at and analyze cellular records and then map those records and create basically visual aids that would go along with it.
Okay. How is it that you, being a part of the FBI, will become involved in a case, a state case or a local law enforcement case?
So usually that happens through some sort of correspondence with one of our task force officers. One of them is typically aware of some sort of an offense that may have occurred in their city, and they'll bring that forward so that the entire task force can have input and help with that, which was very much the case here.
And so in this particular case, do you recall when you were contacted or the FBI was contacted to become a part of this case?
It was right around the middle of October. I don't know if I have the exact date, but sometime in the early to middle of October
Okay.
of 2020.
2020.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and who do you recall, if you remember, I guess discussing that with, and how did you get caught up to speed on what was going on?
I believe that came through one of our task force officers assigned with Dallas Police Department. She made us aware that there was a missing persons case, that they weren't sure if it was a kidnapping. Basically, this gal had been unable to be located, and obviously then looked for some assistance from the task force in trying to locate her.
Okay, and the FBI, to be fair, you all may have some more tools and things at your disposal that maybe local law enforcement doesn't have.
Sure, yeah, I think that's probably fair to say, yes, ma'am.
Okay, more manpower, things of that nature.
Yeah, at least from the task force side of things, we have kind of a unique ability to put some more assets towards the specific cases that we're working on, whereas a normal detective may have dozens of cases that they're trying to work at any one time. Task force kind of allows us to put some more focus and effort into certain things.
Okay, and you said that you learned that a female had gone missing.
Yes, ma'am.
What information did you learn?
That she had flown into Dallas from Seattle to visit a friend, had gone out in the Bellin area of Dallas, and didn't take her flight back out the next day that she was scheduled to leave, and hadn't had any contact with any family members since then.
And your primary focus in this case would be just to get any information you can about maybe where she went, what happened to her, things of that nature.
Yeah, at least from the task force side of things, our initial involvement was just trying to locate her. With the hope that she would still be alive somewhere. We were basically deployed to try to explore any options that may exist in order to assist with finding her.
Now, are you connected, or do you know all the things that local law enforcement are doing at the same time to locate this girl?
No, ma'am. I mean, we'll know some things generally, but there's absolutely, I think in this particular case, there were several folks that were out there trying to canvass for video, do interviews, so we unfortunately didn't have communications to what every single person was doing.
As far as missing persons cases, when it comes to young people in that age group of 20, 23, 25, somewhere around there, do you have any idea how many calls Dallas gets, maybe on a daily basis, of young people missing?
I don't know the exact number, but I feel as though I recall during the course of this investigation learning that it was quite a few.
Okay. How often do you all get involved?
Not terribly often. The FBI's assistance usually comes in the form of Amber Alerts, especially from the CASA perspective, that's where I'll be involved in cases most likely is if there's an Amber Alert. We can usually look at things with some cellular records that can be helpful in that instance. In this particular one, like I said, one of our task force officers just identified that there was something that was just generally not right with someone flying in from out of town with a return flight that was booked. And they obviously had the perception that things were troublesome and needed a closer eye.
Okay. And so you learned that Maricel Botello had flown in, didn't return back on her return flight. What other things about that individual did you all learn that made you think that FBI needs to be involved?
So specifically, we had some information related to her bank transactions, and then during the course of our initial involvement, we also got some of her cellular records. And the combination of those two things were really kind of what led us to the point of identifying some folks that we thought may be of interest, and we kind of realized that there's probably something more to this than just, hey, she really liked Dallas and wanted to stay here.
Okay. At some point, did you develop what you would call a person of interest?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is a person of interest?
Person of interest is someone that law enforcement, I'd say, would like to speak to, that they probably haven't spoken with yet, but may have some information that would be beneficial to learn during the course of an investigation.
Okay. And were you all able to identify Charles Beltran as that person of interest?
Yes, ma'am.
And besides Charles Beltran, did you ever name anyone else as a person of interest, or?
I think the official naming of a person of interest came from Dallas PD in an email that I had, I think, drafted to them. I said that Charles Beltran is someone that we should absolutely talk to. But as far as the official naming of who may be a person of interest, I think that comes from Dallas PD.
Okay. And what was the reason that you all named Charles Beltran as a person of interest?
Yep, so during the first few days that we were looking through things, we had come across specifically some footage from 7-Eleven convenience store where Ms. Botello had a transaction, and we obtained some surveillance footage from that 7-Eleven where you could see Ms. Patello and another individual walk into the store, and Mr. Beltran had some pretty unique gauges in his ears, and we were able to marry up the footage from the 7-Eleven to some other video that we had seen on things, and we pretty quickly identified that he was the person that Marisol was with that night, and we thought it would be beneficial to talk to him, and so we said, hey, this would be a good person to try to focus on for things.
Okay, and that was right at the beginning of when you all were involved in the investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that, you said middle of October, about October 12th or so?
Yes, ma'am, that sounds correct.
Okay, were you able to identify residents for Mr. Beltran?
Yes, we identified a residence in Mesquite.
And did you all travel out to Mesquite to try to find him and talk to him?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, were you able to develop a phone number for Mr. Beltran at that time?
At that time, we did not have a phone number for Mr. Beltran, no, ma'am.
Okay. Tell the jury about your trip out to Mesquite to try to locate Mr. Beltran.
Yep, so we went to, I believe the address was 3113 Kensington, because we had identified a vehicle that was associated with Mr. Beltran. Black Audi that I believe came back is registered to that address. So during the course of investigating other folks that may be associated to that address, and again, trying to locate Mr. Beltran, we came up with Ms. Dykes' name and information related to her.
Okay. And when you went out there, was anyone at the residence?
No one answered the door, so we rang the doorbell.
Okay. Were you able to locate a phone number or any contact information for Ms. Dykes?
Yes, ma'am.
And how were you able to locate that?
I believe that was a combination of the Texas workforce information as well as information associated with some prior Mesquite Police Department reports where I think a phone number was listed as well.
Okay. And these prior Mesquite Police Department reports, did you review those reports?
I did not personally know, ma'am. Not that I can recall.
So you don't know what they were about?
No, ma'am.
Now, were you able to contact Ms. Dykes?
So when we went there to ring the doorbell, I also called the phone number that we had listed for Ms. Dykes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did she answer the phone?
She did.
And what was your conversation with her?
Is trying to be very cordial, just because obviously we're showing up without notice to someone's house. So we brought a uniformed Mesquite police officer with us. There's a ring doorbell, so it's kind of trying to, if you have an FBI agent call you on the phone, a lot of folks know that there's scams that get associated with that. So we're trying to make our presence known and identify who we were. So standing in front of the ring doorbell, kind of waving, showing the uniformed officer that was with us. And kind of stated, hey, we're here, we'd like to hopefully get in touch with Mr. Beltran.
And what was Ms. Dykes' response?
She said that she hadn't seen Mr. Beltran in 3 to 4 weeks, and I asked if I could inquire about the nature of their relationship, and she said she didn't wish to speak with me any further on things with that.
Okay, and it was a pretty short phone call.
Yeah, I think it lasted a few minutes maybe, by the time I got an answer and then tried to go through who we were, so, yeah.
Okay. At any point during that conversation, did she indicate that she didn't believe who you were or anything of that nature?
Not that I can recall. I know that we kind of went out of our way to stand in front of the ring camera, just to try to show some level of verification of who we were.
Were you able to get a phone number or any information about Mr. Beltran?
No, ma'am. I asked for forwarding information and none was provided.
What did you do after that point in your investigation?
So shortly after that, from an FBI perspective, in order for us to continue to pursue investigating things, we have to have some sort of a federal nexus or federal component to continue. So at this one, at the onset, I think I mentioned, we looked at it as a possible kidnapping because there wasn't any indication of how exactly or what happened to Ms. Patello after she left the downtown area. When we came about the video from 7-Eleven that showed her going into the store very willingly, she looked like she was smiling at the time. From an FBI perspective, again, we kind of said, hey, this doesn't look like a kidnapping anymore. This looks like someone that's voluntarily, with Mr. Beltran, making this purchase. So we said, hey, in order for us to keep going on this, we need an official request, and that kind of goes into the other way that the FBI can get involved in things, is through official request from state and local partners. And at that time, there was no official request for the FBI to continue investigating.
Prior to, I guess, this phone call, because I asked you what you did after this phone call and trying to locate Mr. Beltran, were there some other actions that you all took in your investigation?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were those?
We attempted to interview, or go canvas, I guess I should say, for video, interview folks in the Deep Ellum area that may have possibly seen Ms. Patel.
And were you able to locate anyone in that area at that time?
One of our task force officers came across someone at Reno's that said that they saw someone that fit the description of Maricela on the night 5th.
Okay, and what was that description?
I think it was a stature description, so kind of the black hair, and then that the person, again, this is coming through an email from another task force officer, but that person said that they saw someone that fit the description that was, I think they used the words tweaking out and asking for a cigarette.
Okay, and stature-wise, Maricela was small in stature,
Small in stature, yes, ma'am.
about 5 foot tall, maybe 100 pounds.
I don't know if there was specifics that were given from that person that our task force officer spoke with, but just generally fit a close enough description that it was worth a follow-up.
Okay, and young Hispanic female.
I don't know for
You
sure.
don't know that
I don't know for sure what he spoke to that person about.
Okay, but that does describe Ms. Patel.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, is that I don't want to say common because she's an individual, but is that a fairly common, I guess, description or just individual in this area, in the Dallas area?
I mean, I don't know what the exact demographic breakdown is, but I would imagine that several people would fit that description, yes.
Okay. Now, so that nexus now is gone, and you all are not involved in the investigation at that point, is that correct?
That's correct.
At what point did you get back involved with the investigation?
I think the FBI received a formal request from Dallas Police Department to kind of re-involve themselves in the middle of November.
And why did they ask you all to re-involve yourselves at that point?
I think that there was still some genuine concern that she was unable to be located at that point. Again, things relating maybe to cell phone records that we could try to do some exploitation on, and I'm sure a manpower portion of that as well.
Okay. At some point, were you able to, I guess, get a phone number for Mr. Beltran?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did you try to contact him?
I don't recall if I specifically tried to contact him. I'm certain someone did though.
Okay. As in November, how did you all start back up in your investigation?
We first got back into things. I believe there were, again, some historical cell records that we were trying to take a look at to see where folks were in order to interview them, as well as then interview some co-workers and associates of Ms. Dykes and Mr. Beltran.
And were you again able to locate some of these people and interview some of these people?
Yes, the FBI, or at least the task force, was able to do that, yes ma'am.
Do you recall who all you interviewed?
There were several folks from Ms. Dykes' former employer, and then some, I think it was primarily females that were associated to Mr. Beltran. Don't really recall everyone's name though.
Okay, it was one of those Medellin Alvarez.
That sounds correct.
Okay, and Olivia Ramirez, as far as a co-worker, Ms. Dykes, Olivia Ramirez.
That sounds accurate as well, yes ma'am.
Were you able to talk to some of Mr. Beltran's friends, Dax Stevens?
Yes, ma'am.
And had any of them heard from him in some time?
I think, and again, I think Medellin is probably the only one that had seen him with any recency.
And you learned from her that she had taken him up to Pennsylvania
Yes ma'am.
and left him there.
Yes ma'am.
Okay. the historical cell phone records, were you able to, based on those, the analysis of those records, what steps did you take in your investigation at that point?
So, the cell phone records were, beneficial in trying to locate, places of interest that, maybe worth searching for Ms. Vitello. So at least when we kind of re-involved ourselves with things, that was when we started to develop, an area in South Dallas that may be of interest in, going to search as it related to the location of those records historically.
And, did you all kind of search those areas?
Yes, ma'am. So originally there was one site in South Dallas that was searched which was unsuccessful in finding anything that was down in the area where those records were.
South Dallas, was that kind of the Wilmer area?
That's correct.
Okay, was that near like a concrete
Yes,
plant?
ma'am. That's correct.
And, I mean, did you all, I guess, were there several individuals out there as part of this?
I think we had several dozen that were out there searching that area.
What other steps did you take in your investigation during the November time?
And just to be clear, that first search was after the November timeframe. But I kind of think we've more or less reached the point, at least from what I can readily recall, of what the FBI was able to assist with at the onset. I think shortly after that, the case got transferred over to a different unit within the Dallas Police Department, which kind of took the lead on things, and obviously decision-making for investigations then.
Okay. So once the SIU, then you're talking about the Special Investigations Unit,
Yes, ma'am.
once they took over, they kind of also took over the decision-making, is that correct?
I think that's probably fair to say, yes, ma'am.
When, after that point, you stated that you all had conducted a search out in an area near a concrete plant near Wilmer, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and did you learn of the area of where Maricella's body was found?
Again, we're now kind of moving a couple months after the fact, but yes, at some point in, I think, March of 21, we did find that Maricella's body was recovered in an area close to where we were searching.
Okay. From November to the point of when her remains were found in Wilmer, do you recall what other steps you took in your investigation at that time?
I think we were, at least from an FBI perspective and task force perspective, we were trying to help locate Ms. Dykes, Mr. Beltran, in order to, again, get in front of them to be interviewed. So we were focusing on both of them having left the Dallas area and going to various other spots. We found information related to border crossings for them, and again, just trying to develop, where they might be, and then in the course of that, obviously, learn information about things potentially related to the investigation that we wanted to pass on to SIU.
Okay. And so you learned that they were making border crossings during the month of December.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you ever able to locate via cell phone pings or anything of that nature where they were traveling around in the United States?
I believe there were records that went into kind of the northeast area, but I would want to see the actual records in order to say that definitively.
Okay. And were you able to use some of the investigative tools at your disposal to locate that they had at some point traveled to the Florida area?
Yes, ma'am. I think we were able to figure that out through associations to vehicles that came back as being registered to Ms. Dykes or an associate that suggested that they were down in Florida.
And you were passing this information along to the Dallas Police Department?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And at some point, did you learn that Ms. Dykes and Ms. Morano had been arrested in the Florida area?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Were you all a part of trying to locate Mr. Beltran after their arrest in Florida?
No, ma'am.
Okay. After the point of their arrest, what role did you have in any investigation at that point?
Following their arrest, there was nothing substantive related to the murder investigation that we were involved in until such time as we were told that the ankle monitors were removed and they had probably fled the country.
And why did, or I guess what information did you receive that led you to believe that they had fled the country?
We had information that they were at DFW airport. I think that we somehow, it may have been SIU that knew that they caught a flight out of the international terminal. I can't remember where that information came in from, but we knew that they were at the airport.
And at that point, how did you get back involved in the investigation? Is that also a situation where Dallas Police Department has to specifically ask for your help?
Yes, that's correct. So we can open a fugitive investigation related to unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, which is what happened in this case once we got that request from Dallas PD.
Once you got that request, what steps did you take?
Trying to go back through and trace steps to locate where they may have flown to. So pretty quickly we were able to establish that they flew out of DFW into Seoul, South Korea, and then from there took a flight from South Korea into Cambodia. The FBI does have folks that are stationed in various major cities throughout the world, so we were able to kind of work through some liaison contacts and requests for information from those other cities and agents to actually learn that they seemed to be like they were stationary in Cambodia.
And after that information, what did you do next?
We kind of tried to leverage our fugitive investigation as best we could to develop where in Cambodia they may be. Obviously doing that from the United States is not a particularly easy thing, so we relied heavily on the folks that were over in Cambodia. Basically found out bank accounts of relevance and said, hey, here's some information that we hope y'all can use. They were able to get video of ATM withdrawals over in Cambodia and then ultimately identify folks that knew where they were staying and then effected arrest over there.
Okay. And at some point, you kind of turned that over to Kathleen Nichols as far as being a person in Cambodia, a special agent assigned there, and her task force as far as location.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. After they were arrested in Cambodia, how did they get back here to the United States?
Flew over there and got them. So that was a few months later. Some other folks that were on the Violent Crimes Task Force and I went over in a commercial flight to Cambodia, picked them up, and brought them back where they landed at DFW airport and were transferred into DPD custody.
How was that flight back?
It was long. It was a very long flight.
Just for the jury that doesn't know, when you are transporting a prisoner on that kind of flight, like where do you have to sit?
To the extent that the airlines can help, they will put us in the back of planes or somewhere that's not directly next to the general public. If you have a totally full flight, usually we try to occupy single rows by ourselves, so we've got our subjects in the middle of us in the event that we would need to take action of some kind. So in this particular instance, they were generally full planes, and we were kind of bookended on both subjects as we were escorting them back.
And how many agents went to Cambodia?
I think there were 6 of us total.
Now, all right, this time I would like to offer States 392, and this is some business records affidavit, some business records that have been on file with the business records affidavit for more than 14 days, tendering to defense counsel.
Oh, right. No objection, Your Honor.
Is there any objection?
No, Your Honor, sorry. No objection, Your Honor.
States Exhibit 392 is admitted for all purposes.
Commissioner Pelstron.
You may.
Now, there's 134 pages of which has been admitted as States 392 of just various leasing records for Kensington 3113 Kensington Drive in Mesquite, Texas. Was that the address that you all were able to identify as where Lisa Dykes and Charles Beltran lived?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and just looking at this, does it appear that Ms. Dykes had just renewed her lease on 10/1 of 2020?
It does say that that is the commencement date of this, yes, ma'am.
Okay. And it appears that that was for another year lease, is that correct?
I don't recall ever having read that full lease, but that's what it looked like was stated on there, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Now, the date that Maricela went missing was just days later, is that correct?
That's correct.
Based on your investigation into Ms. Dykes and Charles Beltran, was there any indication prior to the murder of Maricela Beltran that they intended on leaving the area, traveling?
I'm sorry, that Ms. Dykes and Mr. Beltran
Yes.
intended to do? So we had information that they were in Arkansas for some sort of a concert, I believe it was. But as far as travel beyond that, nothing that we found was indicative of that, no ma'am.
Okay, and visiting with Ms. Dykes' fellow employees, did you learn that she had been employed there for quite some time?
I don't recall her entire tenure, but they did say that her leaving was very abrupt.
Your Honor, pass the witness.
But when you say that her leaving was very abrupt, she had already told you, I don't know if you have your report, but she had already told the owner over there that she was having issues from her surgery, right?
I'm not sure what she told the owner. I was, in saying that it was abrupt, I think there was at least one interview with a coworker that was surprised by her leaving in the fashion that she did.
Okay, but the coworker don't know why she left, right?
I'm not sure about that.
Totally speculating, right?
That could be, yes, sir. I'm not sure what other knowledge they may have.
Okay, let me specifically ask you about the, I want to make sure I ask you, because I don't want to take up a lot of your time, but you guys talk to a lot of people, right?
I don't know about a lot, but there were definitely some folks that were canvassed for and trying to get witness statements from, yes, sir.
Okay, well, were you aware that after you went to Ms. Dykes' home to try to talk to her, that her address suddenly appeared on social media?
No, sir.
And then they started getting phone calls and threatening messages?
No, sir. I've not been made aware of that.
Okay, but if you're familiar with this case, you know that there was a lot of social media interest, wasn't
There was definitely social media interest, yes, sir.
there? And I think you indicated that y'all got in front of the ring camera because y'all wanted to make sure that she saw that y'all were legit with the Mesquite police
Yes,
officer.
yes, sir. I apologize for interrupting. Yes, like I said, especially if we're making phone calls to folks, if there's a situation where we can't readily show our credentials, we want to make sure that whoever we're talking to, again, knows that it's actually the FBI that's there and not some sort of a phone scam.
Well, did you show her your
I don't recall
credentials?
showing my credentials. I think I identified myself on the phone and I said, hey, we've got a uniformed officer that's here with us.
Yes, sir. And I just want to make sure I'm clear on this, at this Reno location where was that one of your officers that made contact with someone, with a patron, that believed that they saw someone that fit Moriella's, I mean, Matt?
Yes, that was one of our task force officers that went there, found someone that said that they thought they saw someone on the night of the fit that fit Ms. Patel's description, yes, sir.
Okay, and I understand that you said that, well, that description could have fit several people, right?
Yes, sir.
But more importantly, the description that they gave fit her description, correct?
With the exception of not having on the purple dress, yes.
I mean, that was the day after.
I think within the 24 hours, yes, sir.
I mean, she's seen with Charles Beltran at the 7-Eleven during the early morning hours, right?
Yes, sir.
But they left that area, right?
Yes.
So is it possible she came back in a different outfit?
I don't know what would have been possible at that point. My recollection of viewing that video, we could not make out if it was Ms. Beltran on Ms. Patello on that video.
But you couldn't say for sure that it wasn't.
No, it was not good enough quality, no, sir.
And, I mean, just lastly on that subject, I mean, the patron was certain enough, you guys took the time to go and find that video, didn't you?
I think it's worth following up on, especially at that stage of the investigation where we were.
Because again, you never know what's going to help you guys find these missing people.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
That's why when people call in, if they say they see someone, it's important that y'all follow up on it, correct?
I would caveat that with saying, with respect to other information that's known during the course of an investigation, yes, sir. Because there are times when you can get tips that may be completely irrelevant based on other case knowledge that you have.
Okay, but if shortly after she's alleged to have gone missing, a security guard is shown a photo of Ms. Patella, says, yeah, I saw her, that's something we will want to follow up on, would you agree?
I'm not sure if it was a security guard that he spoke to, but if someone says that they saw her in the early stages of an investigation, yes, you want to follow
You
up.
would agree with me that October of 2020 is still the early stages of this investigation, right?
Yes, sir.
And if they go to not one but two different locations showing this photo, and those people say, we believe we saw her over near the City Inn, over near the Mustang Inn, that's something you're gonna wanna follow up on, isn't it?
Again, if I'm the lead investigator on that, I would probably want to have some folks go out there and take a look at those spots, yes, sir.
Can I put it back over there? Thank you. I just don't wanna fall.
No, thank you. Mr. Bruce.
And are you sure that they never got the patron's name that said that he saw someone that fit her description?
I do not know, I was not one that spoke with that patron at that bar.
Okay. And, and just so members, you're clear, if you're a person of interest, you don't have to cooperate with law enforcement, do you?
No, you don't? No, sir?
I mean, if you want to go to Mexico, you can go to Mexico, right?
Yes, sir. Assuming you've got the correct paperwork to do so, yes, sir.
Yes, sir, but I'm just saying, if you're a person of interest, you don't have to cooperate, right?
No, sir.
In fact, even after you're arrested with an arrest warrant, you don't have to cooperate, do you?
That's correct, sir.
And when y'all went out to the Wilmer area initially, did I hear you correctly saying that you were a part of that initial search?
Yes, sir.
And y'all didn't find anything at that time, right?
No, sir.
Okay. Had you found anything that you felt was connected to this disappearance, y'all would have noted that?
I would certainly hope so, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Any regret?
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be found excused.
No objection from the
No
state.
objection, Your Honor.
Thank you,
Thank
Agent.
you.
You're free to leave and go about your business.
Thank you, ma'am.
Call your next witness.
The state calls Vanessa Pozos. Is this a short witness? Short witness.
raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you will give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Thank you, ma'am, can you, state your name and spell your name for the court reporter, please?
Yeah, Vanessa Pozos, VANESSAPOZOS.
Are you nervous?
Yeah.
Okay. Take a deep breath, relax. Let's just talk about, how do you know Maricela Patel?
Dear friend of mine. We met when we worked together at the store that she was an assistant manager in, and I was hired through the pandemic, and we just met. We grew as great friends.
Okay, and so, what store was this that you all worked at?
Charlotte Roos.
What kinds of, I guess, responsibilities did you have at Charlotte Russe?
Stocking the merchandise, making sure the store was, presentable for our customers. It was kind of like shortly after the pandemic, so we were just kind of like opening up with some restrictions, like closed off fitting rooms, and just talking to the customers and seeing what we can help them with. If they were shopping for something in particular, we would just talk to our customers and help them out in any sort of way.
Okay, and this was in Seattle?
Yes.
Was it actually in Seattle or a little town right outside of Seattle?
It's called Tequila. It's a well-known mall called South Center.
And how long did you all work there together?
Well, I was hired in January of 2020, and up to the date, up to like the last day that she flew out.
The last day she flew out. So she flew out on October 2nd, 2020?
Yes. Yeah.
She worked the day before?
Yeah, we were working together, and we were just talking, and she basically just said her goodbyes, before she was gonna go home and pack.
Okay. And she was an assistant manager, is that correct?
Yes.
What was your position?
Sales representative,
Okay.
so just like right below her.
Just right below her. So
Yeah.
she was your supervisor?
Yeah.
Okay. And did she start out as an assistant manager, or was that something she promoted to?
It was something that she was already, positioned when I joined the team, so I'm not
Okay.
sure, to be honest.
Okay. As far as Maricela is concerned, did you all spend a lot of time together between January and October?
Oh, most definitely.
And did you get to know her family?
I met her family briefly on the times that we did go to her apartment, but I mostly just picked her up like outside of her apartment, just texted her, hey, I'm outside, just picking her up like when we would hang out. I do remember hearing her parents talk one of the nights that we did come home a little late, about like 9 or 10 p.m. is considered late, and but mostly everybody was already asleep, so we
Okay.
just stayed quiet.
Okay, so you just kind of briefly met them, but what kind of household? You went into her apartment, what kind of household was it?
Well, the Hispanic household is very clean, organized, quiet, very respectful, very respectful. You're gonna show up at, you have like what is it called, a curfew, that you have to get home to, and just very respectful family.
What types of things socially would you and Maricela do?
Just hang out. Well, I was 21 at the time, and she was 23 at the time. Oh, wait, 22. I was 20. Sorry, forgot. I was 22 at the time. So we would just casually go to Alki Beach. It's like a really common beach in Seattle. It's like a close body of water. There's scooters there. Sunsets are beautiful to catch whenever you're there. It's a very touristy beach. That was like mostly our hangout spot. There's bonfires that go on during the summer. But what we would do socially is literally just bring my Bluetooth speaker, drive around, cruising is the word, just hang out, just stay away from people, because it was like kind of like shortly after the pandemic. So it was just me and her most of the time. We didn't really have like a big social group. We did have some girls that we would hang out with, like when we would catch a drink or something, but other than that, it was just mostly me and her when we would hang out.
she dated, she was a very pretty girl.
Yes,
Um,
gorgeous,
she dated.
yes.
You all at some point were dating a couple of best friends, right? Y'all go on double dates?
Yeah, so there was this pair of guys that me and her would just go on double dates, and we would just hang out, just the four of us, you know, just they got along. Me and the guy that I was dating at the time got along. Me and the guy that I was dating, we known each other for like more than 5 years, so we were just kind of getting into the dating scene with each other. We started off as best friends, and so that was just kind of new to us. I brought Maricela along, and then she seemed to hit it off with his best friend, and then it just eventually just became the four of us just hanging out.
And his best friend was Patrick, is that right?
Yes, Patrick was the guy that Maricela was.
Okay, you mentioned catching drinks and things like that, and in Seattle, smoking marijuana is completely legal, is that correct?
Yes, it is legalized.
And so you all would have some drinks, maybe smoke some marijuana from time to time.
It was mostly just drinks. Whenever we would get a drink, the guys would probably just, you know, like, I don't know, hit their cigarette or something that, you know, drunk guys kind of do when they're on their own. But for me and her, it would just mostly be just catch a drink or two and, you know, a beer, and that's about it. It was never to like the intoxicated, you know, level where it was like, oh my god.
Okay, so you guys weren't wild, getting drunk,
No.
just gone wild at all?
No, always went home. Yeah, no,
And you were aware that, I mean, Maricela did smoke marijuana from time to time?
for sure. Occasionally, yeah.
Did you ever know her to do anything harder than marijuana?
No, no, no,
No Percocet, no
No.
ecstasy, anything like that?
no.
So you knew she was going to travel to Dallas, is that correct?
Yes,
Okay.
she mentioned it to us.
And was she excited about it?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you know did she ever met the guy that she was coming down here to see?
No,
Okay. Did she talk about him much?
no, didn't even mention him.
Okay. And so, you knew she was planning on leaving October 2nd, and then she was supposed to return October 5th, is that correct?
Yeah.
And,
She flew out on a Friday morning, I believe, and then was planning to come back Monday morning.
was she scheduled to work on Tuesday, if you recall?
I would assume so, because she was like our opener and our closer. The times that the mall was open at the time was kind of like an 8-hour shift, you know, because it was shortly after the pandemic, so it was just limited hours for our customers to come in. So, and for what I remember, like seeing the schedules was she would always get like her 40 hours in for sure, like she was prioritized, so yeah, I'm pretty sure they would put her on the schedule.
Now, did you talk with Maricela while she was down here in Dallas?
I sent her a Snapchat because, again, I went to that Alki Beach on my own with another friend on that Friday night. Was her first night in Dallas, and I remember specifically, like, I sent her a Snapchat of my beer, and we're just, you know, obviously, like, the night lights, it's like a beautiful scene, so if you ever get a chance to go, you'll see, like, the whole Seattle skyline, and we're just chilling, drinking a beer, and I sent her a Snapchat, and I said, I wish you were here.
Modelo? Now, when did you learn that she didn't make it home on her flight?
Monday, like, around 10 a.m. would be here, and then, like, I think we're, like, a 2-hour difference, so it would probably be, like, noon over here. But, like, I remember kind of, like, waking up and then getting a phone call.
Okay, and that was a phone call from a mutual friend, is that correct?
Yeah.
And what was the concern of that mutual friend?
She was asking me if I've talked to Maricela, and I told her, well, I just sent her a snap on Friday, like that, which was like 2 days ago, what's up? And then she just told me, well, I haven't talked to her, she hasn't responded since last night. And I was like, it was kind of like a mutual friend that she just kind of got into the group, kind of like we just started kind of hanging out with her, so I didn't really pay attention to her. I kind of thought like, well, I would kind of know if something was wrong, you know, like you're not to be rude or anything, but you're kind of nobody at this moment. Like like, she's fine, like, she'll be alright, like.
Okay,
just give her a
so
second.
that friend, was her name Luna?
Yeah, her name was Luna.
Was it like Maricela to just not respond to people's messages?
No, but, you know, she's a 23-year-old girl, you know, she's not gonna be babysitting her phone either, like, as in, like, she's not gonna prioritize a girl if she's hanging out with a guy, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
she'll get back to us, you know, we're
Okay.
girls.
So at what point did you learn that she just didn't make it back to Seattle at all?
It was like an hour after that phone call. Yeah, it was like, okay, it was confirmed. She didn't get on her flight. She, I believe like the next step was we'll wait and see if she lands. And I believe her cousins or her aunt went to the airport to see if she landed, like were to like arrive at her gate. But they never saw her. So it
So
was like
things are
confirmed
now
by
starting.
them. Yeah, it was confirmed by them. Like, okay, we went to the SeaTac airport. She hasn't gotten off on her scheduled flight. So now it was like worried that day.
And had anybody heard from her at all?
Not that I know of, no.
Okay, you hadn't heard from her.
No, I haven't. I texted her and everything and she didn't respond to me.
Was that very unusual?
Very, yeah.
At what point, and so you're worried at this point, at what point did it go from worrying to really thinking the worst?
Honestly, it was Monday night going into like Tuesday was when like it was, you know, like a big heartbreak and like a hard pill to swallow.
What were you thinking?
I'm the type of person that looks like at the real things, you know, in life. So it's just kind of like this young, smart, beautiful girl, you know, speaks English, speaks Spanish. She's able to communicate with people around her. She has the ability to, you know, move around. She's mobile. So it was just kind of like something's wrong. Like I just knew something was wrong. And obviously you have hope. You have the best hope. Like maybe she broke her phone. You know, she got drunk and she dropped her phone. She broke her phone. So she couldn't communicate with us. Maybe, you know, she missed her flight because she overslept. Maybe just all of these things that you think maybe, you know, you think hopeful, but at the same time it's like you just kind of have like a gut feeling. And like that was my gut feeling.
Was she, you know, her family, she had lots of friends in Seattle,
Yeah,
she had a good job.
yeah.
Would she be the kind of person just to stay here in Dallas and start hanging around hotels known for drug use and prostitution?
Never. No. Like that, no. You come from a good home, you come from, you know, graduating, you come from dreams of wanting to aspire, like into, she wanted to like leave, like she wanted to do lashes, like lashes is like a beauty thing that girls wanna do, and she just finished her course, literally like probably like the month before, and she got her certification. She has drive to like succeed
Okay.
better, so no.
Within, I guess, just hours of her last phone communication with people in Seattle or snap video, would she be the type of person to go from just a drinker and you know, occasional marijuana smoker to an all-out tweaker within 24 hours?
That would make no sense. No,
Would she hang out at a no drug house?
no,
Do any of those things make any sense at all?
they don't,
Knowing Maricela as you knew her.
no,
So was it for that reason your gut told you something was wrong?
yes.
Did you all still just kind of hold out hope over the months of finding something about her?
Yes, Patrick and his friend, just jumped in the car and literally I literally was talking to Patrick and I was like, so what are we gonna do? Like, you know, like this is
a part of our group, what are we gonna do? And he said, I'm gonna go get her, like, I'm gonna go look for her.
And he did for days, didn't he?
He did, he jumped in his car, him and his two other friends jumped in the car and drove nonstop down to Dallas. And we're in Dallas within, I think, a day and a half of driving.
And these are the kinds of friends that Maricela had. We're not talking
Yeah.
about just friends that,
You just met like last week, no,
I mean, he was willing to drive 24 hours
Yes.
straight.
yes, with no sleep, with like rotating with his friends, you know, just sleeping within an hour or two.
We mentioned social media, Snapchat, Instagram, things like that. Was her primary social media communication Snapchat?
Yeah, I would say so, yeah, stories and stuff.
And would she post stories frequently?
Yeah.
And that completely stopped, didn't it?
Yes,
That didn't make any sense either, did it?
no,
Obviously, communicating with her friends, communicating with her family, not getting on the flight, all of that, none of that was typical of Maricela.
no,
This girl, she was raised in a family that lived in the same apartment for over 25 years.
stable home.
So, do you remember the day that you learned for sure that Maricela was never gonna return?
No, I don't. It was really hard. I had to return work like that Friday night. I literally couldn't. I'm so sorry.
It's okay, take your time.
Thank you. That week was horrible. So to just kind of remember about like that first week that it happened was just, I couldn't get out of bed. I would shower and I felt dirty. I couldn't put on my shoes. I was scheduled to work that Friday. Thankfully I was off that entire week. Friday I lasted 30 minutes within that store and I literally left because I couldn't. I saw her face mask on the counter. I just knew something was wrong.
Your Honor, pass the witness.
Cross-examination.
Ma'am, I'll just have a few, questions for you. You say you're nervous or you're scared? You just say you were just nervous, you're not afraid to testify. Huh?
I'm just nervous.
Oh, okay, just making sure I understand what you said.
Testified before.
May I approach the judge?
You may.
Because again, as you told members of the jury, Maricela come from a great family, stable family, great education, a good job. You know a lot of the guys that she was dating, right? Because y'all would date guys together, right?
Date one guy?
No, not the same guy, I'm just saying you knew the type of guys that she liked, right?
Yeah.
All right, do you ever meet Raul?
No.
All right, and you're saying as far as her using a Percocet or anything like that, you don't know nothing about that?
No.
Okay, but she did use marijuana,
Legal?
legal. Well, it's not legal here in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
okay? I mean, I guess it's, anyway, let me just get right to the point, ma'am. None of this makes any sense, right? Let me show you what's marked as defense exhibit number 3. This is a picture of Charles Beltran. This is Charles Beltran, the same person that's in defense exhibit number, that's defense exhibit number 3. This is defense exhibit number 1. That's Maricela?
Yes.
All right, and I guess what I'm getting at, did it make any sense to you when you saw these reports, when you saw all the stories that Maricela voluntarily go with this guy? Did it make any sense to you?
No.
That's not the type of guy she normally would go with, is it?
No.
And in reference to whether or not he abducted her or whether she was kidnapped. When you saw this photo, is that something that you thought about?
That she was kidnapped?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. But again, as far as Marcella that you would go out with, that you would smoke weed with, she didn't seem to be the type of person that would want to date someone like this, did she? What's in your opinion?
I personally wouldn't even approach that person.
No. And other than trying to get some weed, Marcella probably wouldn't either, would she?
Probably not.
Judge, I believe that's all I have. Thank you, ma'am.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
May this witness be found excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Alright, thank you, ma'am. You're free to leave. Do you need help getting down from the witness stand?
I got it, thank you.
Well, I don't want you to trip and fall.
No, I appreciate it, thank you.
Can you see the attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
Alright, Ms. Pittman, call your next witness.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the state rests its case.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it is now 5:22, so it is the end of the day. We will be at recess until tomorrow morning. I expect you back in the jury room no later than 9:30 a.m. Please remember your instructions. We are at recess.
All rise.
We'll see you tomorrow. Alright, you may be seated. Alright, if the attorneys could be here tomorrow morning at 9:15 a.m., that way we can put anything on the record that we need to prior to the defense either putting on a case or resting.
Yes, ma'am. I would just,
Yes,
ask that, can y'all just have Ramirez here? Cause I anticipate we'll start with her.
what time do you want her here?
You said, just whatever time you say,
Do you need her?
You don't wanna talk to her beforehand? Alright,
We'll have her.
We talked to her before.
alright. Okay.
They were watching, both her and Ortiz were watching the video this afternoon.
Thank you, sir.
And, is there any objection to the state calling, who was that? We're off the record, right? Heather Page is a thirst trap for the female journalists. I'll note that.
I'll let him know that's how he needs to introduce himself, Special Agent Thirst Trap.
Just for the jury.
That's a search warrant, right?
Yeah, it was on Halloween.
He's a handsome.
Yeah. It's nothing like I
It's trying to be funny.
Hmm?
Please don't lie like that.
I know. I won't.
Such a nice family.
Yeah, that's, I think that's good. It's just adding these as, I think so.
These are just regular purposes.
That's one help.
You didn't break 400, dang it.
I don't know, we were,
392,
Exactly.
you couldn't come up with anything else,
it's not over yet?
thank you very much. Alright, so we'll start with okay.
What do I have?
I'm gonna email you all, the copies of the charge, in case there's any.
Laura, did you get my, email about the 3023? You did, okay, and I have case form, I'll send to you.
Yes, okay, happy to take a look at it.
So,